Yo, what up, folks? You can hear me, yes? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. We're gonna fix everything, all right? Just not in time for this interview. What up, what up, what up? We're on the 500th floor. Okay, folks. Where's the music? Ba-da-ba. We're gonna disturb the music. All right, folks. In a second, about 3 or so minutes, I am going to be bringing on Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. Just kidding. The challenger to Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. Guy by the name of Brent Hennrich. All right? Brent Hennrich. We're going to have him on in a second. I'm going to DM him, and he'll join the Zoom room that we've established. And then if I might have time afterwards to actually discuss a bunch of stuff that's going on, including the Attorney General being fired. That is Pam Bondi, alleged Attorney General. And also other news with regard to the war. Trump's speech, disastrous speech. So there's a lot to get into. Also, a Green Beret or an alleged Green Beret is wanting to box me because I called him a pussy after he called me a name. And I was like, oh, that's disrespectful. So yeah, there's plenty to discuss here. But we did get Timcast to do a little thinking emoji when I suggested that Tim Pool be the sort of neutral, impartial arbiter, referee of that discussion. But definitely follow my Twitter if you haven't already, because there's a lot of priceless gems recently at Pisco Liddy, including this Green Beret, alleged Green Beret guy. He thought I was Rob Noor, and then Rob Noor got a bunch of ricochet shots from people. Crazy times. Rob Noor got ricochets from all over the place because they thought it like Rob was me. And so they were all talking shit. And I'm like, listen, Rob Noor is a peaceful man. He's not like you guys. He's not like you guys that are just like these violent thugs. Okay? Zoom is crazy. I actually suggested Zoom because I thought it would be most comfortable for him. But then he was like, wait, why Zoom? And I'm like, oh shit. Maybe I was assuming too much. Okay, but let me just DM him. I'm going to DM him. And then we'll get the interview up and running. We'll start talking shop. And folks, it's going to be a free-flowing conversation. I am interested in the issues, as you know, and hopefully it'll be fun for y'all to see if there is a person you want to support in the race and this is the primary race in Washington's 3rd congressional district, other than the incumbent Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. Yeah, I know I did. I'm sorry. Should have used Microsoft Teams. I know. All right, folks. Let me just DM him real quick, and then we'll get this started as soon as we can. Hey. Feel free to join whenever you like. The room is open. Oh, it is also officially a Good Friday. It is officially Good Friday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Hope you have a wonderful month. I know someone who's not having a wonderful month. And it's everyone who cares about the price of goods and the price of services. So hopefully you're not one of those people. Are you one of those people? That would be unfortunate if you were one of those people. And it's probably not a very good month for you if you, care about America not getting involved into intractable and unsolvable crises, And it's probably not a good month for you if your name is Pamela Bondi. But yeah, it's going to be a freewheeling conversation, and I hope to get into some of these current events, including the war, including the firing of Pam Bondi. Well, we're going to get Brent Hennrich's positions on a bunch of stuff, but it will be free-flowing, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of a back and forth. You guys know how I like to do these conversations. So yeah. maybe you'll get to see some of my opinions too throughout our conversations. Pam is actually short for Pamitha. That is not true. Why do you guys lie? Everyone just wants to lie. You're now on call 24/7 because of the war. Intractable and unsolvable like Ukraine? Yeah, like that. Like that conflict. Sort of like that. I don't understand if it's supposed to be like an own. Obviously, we didn't want to get into an intractable and unsolvable crisis like Ukraine. That's on the Russians. If the choice was like, let's make an intractable and unsolvable crisis, that would be like a bad thing to do. Pamithy. Lying is cool and base now. Yeah, just like Ukraine, which Trump said he was going to fix. Exactly. What a great example. What a great example, guys. I will say, I have a lot of thoughts on Pam Bondi, and I do think it's a strategic mistake. We won't get into the strategic mistake stuff during this conversation, or we probably won't. That'll be my thoughts afterwards. But I do think it's a mistake for Trump to have done this. I think we have Brent. Just give me a second to change scene so people can see you. Brent, just give me one quick second, all right? You can hear me though, right?
No problem.
Awesome. 1 second. We're just going to transition this. Okay, 3, 2, 1. People are going to be able to see you in 3, 2, 1. Brent Hennrich, as I live and breathe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, quite well. You are running for Congress for Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Is that right?
Yes, I am. It's 7,000 square miles of Southwest Washington.
Well, that's great news for us who want to hear from different voices during this crazy time. And why don't you just give my audience real quick a little bit of background on you, and then we'll get into the issues.
Well, yeah, I'm a dad. I'm a father of 3 living children. One that passed away. I got to quickly mention my one that passed away was a reproductive rights issue. My wife had a placental abruption. We had a really rough pregnancy. And at the end of the day, we ended up having to choose to save my wife's life and, give birth to our daughter that we got to hold for a few hours. So I'm about the most pro-choice person you'll ever meet, because I can't find a line in the sand. I can't argue over that line. And I don't think that we should ever be making laws that exclude people just because there's some weird line. Beyond that, I'm just one of those people that I'm a problem solver by nature. I was a project manager on a global project that had me looking for the same result every time, but every room was different, every country was different, every culture was different. So how to get there, I was working on problem solving. And right now the problem is Donald Trump and his administration. And we have feckless dinos that are enabling it, along with the MAGA Republicans that are scared of him. And we need somebody that's going to stand up and just say, no, this is unconstitutional, illegal, full stop. No, we need a Congress that re-exerts its authority, takes it back. I want to make sure that we're working to get to universal health care. I want to make sure that we're, funding education, and that includes all-day childcare, early pre-K, making sure that we're making the right investments in K to 12, where, we're getting people onto the right pipeline going forward. We're going to need electricians. We're going to need plumbers. We need framers. We still need doctors. We still need nurses. We need therapists. We still need art history majors to tell us what the past was. And we need to stop this competition of, oh, I went to a shirt and tie job. I went to make things and make that against each other. We need everybody in the forward economy to be able to go forward. So I really believe in college is good for some, but not necessarily the only route to success. So I want to make sure that we're investing in education and doing our best to put those things. I want to make sure we're continuing to invest in infrastructure. right now, the district I'm in has the I-5 bridge, which connects
Mm.
Oregon to Washington along the I-5 corridor that goes from Canada to Mexico. And we are facing a debacle where we need to replace our aging bridge. And this thing has been the hot button for 15 years. Now it's going forward. I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to secure federal funding for that while not sticking my finger in the dam and messing everything up.
No,
They have great plans and have been working on it, and I just don't want to mess it up. But we're talking about the I-5 connection from Canada to Mexico. This should be a federally funded project.
it's very.
And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. No, I appreciate your answer on all those different issues, and including in terms of the sort of the Trump nexus here that you identified, and the fight against MAGA, because it really does feel just to put a point on it, that this current war in Iran, for example, gets to the heart of a lot of the issues that a lot of average Americans are facing, including pricing, including the priorities of our government. And so I wanted to get your reaction to the war in Iran. What are your views on that? And as a congressperson, what kind of stance would we expect you to take?
My views on the war in Iran are they're just a distraction. I mean, that is purely Trump is trying to keep us away from paying attention to the Epstein files. It feels like every day everything goes back to that in this administration. I think that we're risking lives. I think we're wasting money. I think we are creating more of a problem by attacking a country and making more people mad at us than we're ever solving
Did you
by
hear?
doing.
Sorry to interrupt you, but did you hear that line? So there was a released audio and video, actually, I think, of Trump sort of riffing to. It was either a room of donors or something, where he said, "We can't do daycare, we can't do healthcare, we can't do this, we can't do that. We have to just worry about war and military spending." And it feels like that is almost backwards. It feels like first we should be investing in our children. We should be investing in our infrastructure, like Joe Biden did. And so yeah. So talk a little bit more about what kind of stance we would expect from you in Congress vis-a-vis the war in terms of prioritizing what you care about.
Yeah, well, take step back a second.
Yeah.
We can do childcare, we can do education, we can do healthcare. We tax the rich and make them pay their fair share. This is the simple. It's stop cutting taxes for the richest 1%. Just really, it is that simple. Tax the rich, make them pay their fair share. Stop lighting money on fire by sending $2 million missiles to intercept a $25,000 drone that we wouldn't be shooting had we not started the problem.
Yeah, and the economies here, or I should say the people have talked about it, sort of the asymmetric warfare and price incentives here are astounding. Whereas sort of American military expenditures are highly technical, very expensive. It seems like a lot of these drones and Iranian munitions are quite cheap to produce, and they're able to hold this kind of strategic advantage. So I totally can understand the frustration from a lot of Americans that so much money is being put into a conflict that we started. And really every day, I don't know what the average now is, like $1 billion+ a day. They want $200 billion as part of their supplemental. Trump is talking about a $1.5 trillion military budget. So what are your thoughts on that, on the military budget and on the expenditures that we're currently taking for the war?
Well, I mean, it's well known. We have the largest military budget of the 26 largest nations, 25 of which are our allies. Like we have the budget, and I believe that we should have the strongest, most advanced fighting force on earth as a deterrent. It has, in my lifetime, we've had the Iraq wars and the forever wars on the war on terror and the horribly failed war on drugs. which hasn't been fought by the direct military. But at the end of the day, we need to keep up our fighting force. I support our troops. I support our veterans who unfortunately get crapped on as soon as they go from being our troops to our veterans. I think that we need to redirect a lot of funding into veteran care but we do not need to be investing in just starting new wars in Iran. I just no, I
Yeah.
am not MAGA, but come on, it's the one thing MAGA has is why are we just starting wars and sending our sons, daughters, friends, and neighbors to fight wars around the world? It it just doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
me.
I couldn't agree more. And there's a little bit of nuance into what you said there, which I totally agree with as well, which is this, no one here, or at least I'm not, advocating for us to like cut the entire Pentagon budget. No one's saying that we shouldn't have a robust military spending. I'm someone who, if you read even like the libs from the abundance liberals, they'll tell you that a lot of great innovation and technology has been done through Pentagon funding, that kind of thing. And certainly a lot of the private-public partnerships remain available, but they shouldn't be, both blood-wise and treasure-wise, be wasted in an area where it's not really our interest. And you mentioned also the kind of supposed MAGA position against forever wars. That was a lot of the rhetoric, but it seems that the leaders of the MAGA movement never really believed it. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Another big part of the expenditure pie that the administration has been focusing on is internal immigration enforcement. And there's a little bit of a setup here, but I want to play, or I want to actually just state a quote from someone that you're competing, just so everyone is clear. You're competing in an open primary against Marie Gluesenkamp Perez and whoever the Republican challenger is going to be as well. But this is a quote from Marie Gluesenkamp Perez in the aftermath of this funding debacle about ICE and in the aftermath of the Alex Preddy and Renee Good shootings. Quote, "Shit's terrible, but we have to be strategic and think clearly. And no one is talking about this fact. ICE is pre-funded for 6 years, ... ICE can keep doing this for 6 years, ... The money is not the question, ... The question is what leverage do Senate Democrats have to negotiate accountability right now?" Your response to that quote and to the immigration spending by the administration.
Like everything else Marie does, let's defer it to the Senate. I mean, she doesn't even do her job. She just always says, "Oh, I voted like this, but don't worry, the Senate will clean up my vote. Don't worry about this. I did that, but the Senate's not going to let it pass. So I'm making this group happy by voting with them, enabling them, and then I'm counting on the Senate Democrats of Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell to clean up my mess to make it so Democrats will still like me."
What's your position on ICE?
ICE needs to be 100% dismantled.
ICE
ICE needs their entire budget taken away. It needs to be redirected to immigration courts. We need to hire the staff needed so that we can process the backlog. We need to have a robust court system, and there are people that will need to be deported. And we can have U.S. Marshals, the FBI in the interim handle that. But we need an enforcement agency that answers to the justices of the immigration court, to no political arm whatsoever. That, ICE needs to just right now, you cannot retrain empathy into a group. You cannot figure that out. We do not grab people on their way into court. We restrain them when the judge says, "I'm sorry, but you've lost," and then you are given your appeal. We get your appeal. You are given due process. We do not impede that process.
For you, what was the most sort of, you mentioned, for example, people getting picked up or eluded perhaps on their way to their green card ceremonies or their citizenship ceremonies, let's say, or to their court hearings in immigration court. Other than that, have there been any images or specific instances that have really stood out to you in terms of the constitutional crisis in a way that we're in vis-a-vis ICE and DHS?
Okay, so I'm sitting here in my office. I'm in a 3-story townhouse. To my right is a two-story townhouse, and to my left is a two-story townhouse. Both families don't look like me. They are not as white as me. And when the U.S. Supreme Court said that ICE could pick up people based on what they look like and assume they shouldn't be here unless they could prove they should be here, the first reaction I had was to go next door on either side and make sure that everyone there was carrying a U.S. passport card. Because no longer can you freely move around in this country if you don't look like me. That's not okay. But
And
I can't undo what the Supreme Court did until I'm elected. So I went to the next thing I could, which is to protect those that were as close as me. My campaign, we did a social media drive trying to get people to donate so LULAC, a local Latino outreach corporate group, would be able to get people passport cards, because we are now where if you don't look like me, then you have to carry papers in this country to prove. Like, what is this? Like, I watched movies about, when I was a kid, and people would be border crossings and they'd be like, oh, show me your papers. Like, that didn't make sense to me as an American. I went to California, went to Idaho, went to Montana. Like, that was, right now I live on the southern edge of Washington. My mother lives in Oregon, 13 minutes away. I cross that border all the time. I had a lovely kickoff event last night. My wife just now took one of my lifelong friends back to the airport, 8 minutes away, different state. And now here we are in a show your papers situation. I just can't comprehend where we are.
And so, folks understand what he's referencing with the Supreme Court. There was an issue, there a series of orders issued, I believe, from California that found as a factual finding that the people were using race and ethnicity as at least one factor among others to, and sometimes the exclusive factor in combination with, for example, accents, places where immigrants tend to be, that all kind of get towards your ethnic background. And there were orders like stopping that. And the Supreme Court, as is typical, in their shadow docket, without any sort of real clear explanation, kind of stopped those orders, or at least delayed them temporarily. And in a concurrence, you had Justice Kavanaugh indicate that at least his position was that race is something that you can take into consideration in doing these kinds of stops, not for like identification purposes of particular people, but instead as a sort of, because these people tend to do this kind of thing as a sort of stereotype, you're allowed to consider it as part of your factors in doing these kinds of stops. And so that's what's being referenced here. And no, I'm really glad that animates you, because for me, Constitution is everything. Constitution is what binds us. Due process rights, that's what make us American. The fact that we believe in our rights, and the fact that we believe that everyone deserves a chance in court and a chance to have full attainment of their rights. More generally, though, you'll get some pushback from people who say the border was untenable under Biden. The border wasn't being enforced under Biden. And what, you want to get rid of ICE? You don't want any internal immigration enforcement? It sounds like you just want open borders. Do you want open borders?
No. No one wants open borders. But we don't have open borders. We never have. We have had illegal crossings. They've been illegal the entire time. That doesn't make the human illegal. It makes the act of what they did illegal. So no, I don't want illegal crossings. What I want is a system where people can get here, claim asylum, and the court can process their case quickly so that either A, they're admitted in, or B, they're sent back home. Versus right now, we have underfunded the courts, where we have to allow them in by our laws until their court case get called. Well, if that court case is 2 years, 6 years, 10 years down the road, well, in between, what are they? People are calling them illegal aliens but they're in limbo. Let's process this stuff. The right to a speedy trial exists. Why can we not fund this to give them all speedy trials?
Yeah, and folks, sometimes it can take, put aside asylum, which Trump has, effectively tried to
Yeah.
just totally end in certain situations. But even just getting a green card, which is available for certain close familial relationships, these green cards are by statute available for anyone who is eligible. They can be 2 years, and that's crazy. That's not even through a court system. Asylum cases can take years and years and years. And so, bad incentives and bad backlogs can exist. And it's really important to fund, and that's what the bipartisan border bill was trying to do in the Biden administration when they tried to pass. Too little, too late. But no, definitely, I hear you on that for sure. Let's get into cost.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I want to point this out because this is back under Bush, under W. Bush.
Mhm.
Family friends of ours, a person that was basically my second father, bought a large property just south of Portland. I helped oversee the construction of all the buildings on the property, the new 5,000 square foot house, the 6,000 square foot shop, 20,000 square foot barn, everything. We had a ranch manager who was not documented at the time. This was in 2003, and that we had hired him. He had come into this country in 1996 and applied and everything else. Could not leave the country because if he left and came back, it would then be illegal. In 2003, I would call once a month to the line of what date they were processing. He came in 96, they were processing 91. This is 8 years after, 7 years after he's been here.
Wild.
And there's still 5 years before, this is where I'm like, no, we need the staffing. Process these things. We need the judges. We need we're gonna need legal defense for these people because they don't have most likely the resources. And people can say, oh, that's our no, you are entitled to representation in this country. The government does not get to attack you, no matter if you're a citizen, if you're a guest, if you're here under questionable. In our Constitution, you have the right to an attorney to defend you. So I want to make sure that we are funding that so that these people are able to get their rights and make sure that they're able to come to America. If they're not, let the judge say that and then give them, the empathy of, hey, I'm sorry, you don't get to leave this courtroom, but you can give your family a hug. You can give those here that you care about their respects. But now you are going to be put in handcuffs. You're going to be taken, and you will get a right to an appeal. If you don't win that, I'm sorry, we are going to take you back to the place that we believe that you came from. So please be honest and tell us where you came from. I can't think of another way to do it that has empathy involved.
I appreciate you saying that, and that your conception of rights, as mine is, oftentimes significantly differs from what the Supreme Court has said, or what it allows for, or what it abides. This might be a tough question, I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, my audience, me specifically, we are clamoring for our Democratic representatives to be open to Supreme Court reform. That might take the form, as has been suggested, of a binding code of ethics. That might take the form of a constitutional amendment to overturn certain of the horrible decisions, such as the immunity decision. It might take the form, as I have suggested, of expanding the court. Are you open to Supreme Court reform? And if so, what would you like to see?
Well, I'm open to Supreme Court reform as long as it doesn't create a yo-yo. So, I mean, people ask me every day, oh, let's expand the court. Where we are in politics now, I think that we are on the Newton's cradle, swinging back and forth. And so I just don't want to do something that I don't want it to be. We have a Democrat president, we have 15 Supreme Court justices. Then we get a Republican president, so we jump to 17 Supreme Court justices. Then we get a Democrat, then we're up to 19. Oh, what the heck? We'll make it 21. I would like to see that we have one Supreme Court justice for every district as long as there is an odd number of districts. So we would go to 13 currently, but if we add another district, it would pause.
You mean
until
circuits?
we went to 15.
So circuits. For the
Yeah.
he's referencing the
circuits,
yeah,
not districts.
right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
circuits. Sorry, I misspoke there.
No worries.
But then along with that, I've also seen a great idea that you do that, but also that there is a lottery system where what 7 or 9 justices you get on your case are randomly picked, so that we're no longer seeing these cases being filed in that one circuit in Texas that goes conservative to conservative to conservative to flow up to the Supreme Court, where when you file your lawsuit for something like Dobbs, you don't know what's at the top of the chain because you know it's a liberal or it's a conservative court, but you don't know which justices you're going to get, because until you get there, and you could end up with a 7-0, liberal court when it was a 7-6, makeup if you did a lottery of 7. I like that. I want a judicial code of ethics. I think that needs to be passed, and that's going to have to be a constitutional amendment, 100%. Expanding the court does not require an amendment. We can do that. That's no problem. Setting up a lottery system, I don't know if that would require an amendment or not. But
it's kind of a gray zone. Yeah, I agree. I don't know whether or not that would be constitutional.
We can totally do some things to make it, because right now we have people circuit court shopping and shopping their stuff directly with, I'm going to get there if I go this path. And I think this court is going to change the course of history for 100 years because I went to Bible study with, and I don't agree with that. I don't.
We're talking about justices. Let's talk about justice. Brent, the Democrats are furious. I'm furious. We want to see justice and accountability for the crimes the administration is committing. Those crimes, in my view, you might think differently, include murder, kidnapping, in terms of impeachable offenses, abuse of power, a level of bribery and insider trading that has never been witnessed before in this country. We want to see accountability for what this administration is putting the country through. And we want to see, if there's a Democratic majority, actual hearings, actual efforts by our congressional Democrats to hold the executive branch to account, to bring this lawless president to heel. What are your thoughts on accountability and punishment? What do you think should happen under a Democratic? Let's start with a Congress.
Well, we absolutely, we need a Congress that will be a co-equal branch. We don't have it now, but that's what it needs to be, and needs to do its job of oversight. While I agree personally with a lot of your sentiments, I think the one thing we can get them on is ICE, and that it's terrorism. It's terrorism of American citizens. That I fully believe what ICE has done in the last year started by terrorizing people of color, and that what happened to Renee Good and Alex Peretti was to tell the people like me, shut up and stay out of our way, or we'll get you too. I really believe when their response was, oh, they were terrorists. Oh my God, he had a gun. You know what? I wish people didn't have guns on the street every day, but I recognize they have a constitutional right to. And carrying a gun does not come with a death sentence in this country. It just doesn't.
No,
And so I
it,
think that those two people were killed as acts of terrorism to try and make sure that the rest of the country were as scared as people of color. Like, you will respect us. And I think we can impeach them on that. I mean, there's a million impeachable offenses. And yes, the insider trading and the backdoor bargaining and the I'm going to move money from the treasury into my peace board and I'm going to, it's all illegal.
I appreciate you saying
And
that, and I totally agree that there's been so much impeachable conduct here, that Americans can see it, and there, yeah, I would say, like, to take your pick. The ICE stuff is crazy. The Christine Nome bribery scandal is crazy. Everyone seems to have these tips when we're about to escalate, or when Trump is about to release a statement on Iran. There seems to be a great deal of trading right before then. How is it then, in this time, that there is an unaccountable administration, there is widespread corruption, there is overperformance by Democrats in so many elections, a strong electoral position right now for Democrats going into the midterms? I just saw Harry Enton on CNN show a poll. Democratic leadership is unpopular, net negative among Democrats. Why is that?
because they're feckless. They 1 minute for 1 second stand up and want to hold Trump accountable. And when we were at the end of the year during the shutdown, and Hakeem Jeffries was standing strong, saying we are not going to give up. We're going to get the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And I actually got called by an interview, a guy who got interviewed. They said, well, do you support Hakeem Jeffries? I had just watched him on MSNBC give I mean, he was fired up. And I was like, well, yeah, right now he is firing on all cylinders. That's we need to hold Trump accountable. We need to make sure that we get what we need as Americans. And then the next week they roll over at the help of the person that I'm running against. Like it. And then since then, feckless puppies that are just running around, chasing their tails, saying, "Oh, we didn't do it." Stand up. Like people like, oh, who are you going to vote for leadership? I don't know. Somebody that's a goddamn leader. Because right now, I'm leaning towards that's AOC. That's where I'm at right now. But I will admit, I have said on the record, yeah, I would vote for Jeffries. I believe it is imperative that Democrats vote united for their Speaker of the House. That is imperative. So I think there are discussions that have to happen ahead of time. But I personally don't believe, from everything I've heard, other candidates running from, because I don't think there's any will or want for Jeffries to be that in the House, and there certainly isn't for that for Schumer in the Senate.
The SAVE Act, the Lake and Riley Act, the censure of Representative Green, various other different bills and votes that we can look at. Oh, go for it. Yeah.
You forgot censuring Kamala Harris.
Oh.
You forgot censuring Rashida Tlaib. You forgot censuring. Yeah, I mean, just it's the list is so heinous of what I'm running up against. I mean, voting for tripling ICE's budget in committee, voting for the every time DHS has been unfunded, her caving and saying no. Whether that was the shutdown in December when we were fighting for health care and she was out running around the media saying, nope, Democrats need to understand that the big, beautiful bill, which she did not vote for, but gave ICE funding. It's like, yeah, but we can unfund the top. We can cramp the whole system until they give us something back. She's unwilling to any of that. So I mean, you're stating her voting record, and I'm just saying it's worse. She voted for the SAVE Act 3 times, then came back to the district to a town hall of 150 angry constituents in the room, 1,000 outside the room, and said, don't worry, it's a dumpster fire bill. It will never pass the Senate, but I voted for it because people think illegal people are voting, and I have to make sure they know I don't support illegal people voting. Okay, we need congresspeople that vote on what's right and wrong, not on what the opposition is going to run the next goddamn ad.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, no, to me, you're making my blood boil a little bit with these votes, and the transfer of responsibility to the Senate, who sometimes does the right thing, but not always. And you mentioned the budget fights that occurred. The last defections were from Senate holdouts. And so you can sometimes say that the Democratic senators do their job, and that's great and all. But yeah, specifically on the funding stuff, it's pretty insane for Representative Gluesenkamp Perez to lecture the constituents and the general public about the importance of leverage, having given up her entire leverage when she decides to vote without any conditions in favor of ICE funding, et cetera, et cetera. But let's be objective here, okay? You know, you're talking to someone. I'm sympathetic to the resistance. I'm sympathetic to holding her to account. You're in a Trump district. You're in a district that voted for Trump. And so she has to take those votes because she needs it to get elected and to make sure that there's a Democrat instead of a Republican in that spot. Your response?
And I'll fight back. I will fight back right now by saying, find me one person that voted for her that thought she would vote for the SAVE Act. Find me one person that voted for her that thought she would vote for the Lake and Riley Act. Find me one person that voted for her that thought she would vote to fund Trump's personal Gestapo. I haven't found one. I'm here. I'm traveling the 7,000 miles. I am looking and talking to people every day. I haven't met one. No one voted for her to do those things. So why do we need voters that believe we need those things? We know we have the votes in the district that don't want those things.
I appreciate you saying that. You're in an open primary. Explain what the open primary is and what happens.
So we're in the top two. So right now, and I've been the candidate that's been discarded before. So I'm not going to say anything other than, as far as I know, there is myself and Marie Gluesenkamp Perez running. There is John Braun, a state senator out of the 20th legislative district on the Republican side running. There is a businessman, Anthony Barron from the coast, that is a developer transplant from California that's running as a Republican. There's 2 or 3 other names that I can't remember that are listed as independents that have put their name out there. We are all in one bucket. Whoever the top 2 vote getters are in August will go to the November primary. It doesn't matter your party allegiance. It doesn't, nothing. It is all about whoever the top 2 vote getters are in August 4th will be the 2 in November 3rd. And so it's a jungle primary. And so right now we believe, based on polling, based on our best data and best guesses, John Braun is the strongest Republican, and he is most likely just going to carry through to the general, which puts it in a situation where Marie and I, as the strongest 2 Democrats, are competing, and whoever has the most votes of the 2 of us will be moving on. But there is potential that it could be Marie and I that go through. There is potential it could be Anthony Barron and John Braun that go through. In Washington, there's no rule on it. And right now, I look at what's going on in the jungle primary and the California governor's race, scares the crap out of me. They got two Republicans in first because they got five good Democrats all fighting over the same group of voters. The Democrat voters are more, but the Democrats may not get a voice in November.
Yeah, no, that scares me too, and it makes me think that at least in the California case, it's important to consolidate around at least two or three of these of the competitive Democrats there. Here, what I'm thinking of is, oh my God, I'm totally blanking. Is it Katie?
It's Katie Porter, Tom Steyer,
Yep.
and Eric
Swalwell. That's right. Thank you so much. I should have known that. But yeah, no, but there's other candidates too that are sort of drawing from the top three there, and that does scare the living crap out of me. The potential of having two Republican candidates that come out of there, and then the Democrats being long. I mean, that's one thing that you can say about Gavin Newsom and some of these other governors, Pritzker, etc., and having now the governorship in Virginia, is state control is very, very important to resisting Trump there. We are talking about a federal House seat, however, that you're running for. And so talk me through your theory of the case. How will you appeal to Republican voters in your district?
We're appealing to all voters in our, we're appealing to all the voters in our district. We are talking every day about the fact of, I'm happy to compromise, but I will not compromise my morals, and I will not compromise other people's rights. That's as hot button as we get. We're talking about education. We're talking about health care. We're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about overall government accountability. We are not ostracizing anyone. We are reaching out to everyone that we can. And yes, there is 35% that are on the extreme MAGA side that we are not going to reach, but we are talking to everyone else, and we are not getting. The amount of negative we're getting is about 3%. Like we are just reaching and talking to people. We're getting a lot of pragmatic. Well, I'm not sure that's going to happen, but right now we feel positive that we're going forward, but we have a name recognition problem. Politics. The reason we all need to raise money at bh4c.win is so that we can fund our voter outreach so we can get our name recognition up. Right now, Marie has free name recognition from news stories, good and bad, from newsletters she's able to send out from her office, and we don't have that. So we need it in yard signs, in billboards, in radio and TV, so that people have heard the name enough, they feel comfortable with it. And that's just the life of politics is, we're there. And back to our jungle primary, I'm fearful of John Braun and Marie being in the general, and that's putting two Republicans into the general as far as voting record goes. But John Braun wins because 20% of the Democrat base says, I'm not voting for Marie again. She voted against my rights. I'm sitting on my hands. I'm sitting it out. And that is going to hurt the down ballot candidates. That is going to affect our Washington State Democrat legislature because we're not going to be able to hold or win additional seats here in the third because people just won't open their ballot. In Washington, we are the top race. Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray are both already in. Our governor cycle is off. Our city and county elections are in odd years. The top of the race is the congressional race. And if it's Marie and John Braun, 20% of Democrats just aren't even going to pick up their ballot.
All right, I'm going to do some rapid fire stuff to make the audience so they have it very clear about where you stand on different issues. So just answer as simply as possible. Would you vote for the Save America Act?
No.
Would you vote for funding ICE with supplemental bills or the big beautiful bill or anything like that?
No.
Would you vote to impeach Donald Trump?
Yes.
Would you vote to expand the ACA subsidies?
Yes.
would you vote to censure a fellow Democrat in this context?
That would be further
Assuming,
context.
okay, the examples that we've had thus far, for example, Representative Green.
No, I would not have voted to censure Al Green.
And would you consider all options when it comes to leadership among Democrats in the House?
Absolutely. Other than myself, I do not want it.
Okay. Okay. With that, folks, I've already taken a lot of Brent's time. If we have any, we'll maybe take one or two audience questions. Folks who put it in the chat, I'll be able to see it. If you have any burning questions, serious questions, or they can be silly, I guess, for Brent Hennrich, please put them in the chat right now, and then we'll get them out of our hair. But we really appreciated the conversation so far, Brent. And frankly, I think that there is this deep-seated yearning for Democrats to find fighters and to find people who are willing to oppose fully MAGA. It doesn't mean no compromise on anything, but I think it does mean no compromise on certain foundational values. Things, for example, like rights. Things, for example, like corruption. And these are the things that that I think my audience certainly cares the most about. We care about our Constitution. You have a lot of like legal people here, and for that, like thank you for standing up for that. I'll let you respond to that while we get some of these questions in, if anyone has any.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll say that, I am not a constitutional professor. I'm not a scholar of it. I have read it. I believe I understand it, and I believe I understand it in the top level of what it was intended to do. And I intend to make sure that we're going through on that. It's one of those frustrating things when you hear some court cases like, well, but the comma said, and the commas here are not there. And it's like, come on, what was meant. And so, I want to make sure we're upholding that in to the best of our abilities. I believe in this country. I believe in our founding fathers. I believe they laid us the best building blocks, but it's up to us to make sure.
100%. 100%. First question: what's Brent's position on the attack on transgender Americans' rights?
That it's abhorrent, and that I absolutely do not support any attack on any group, marginalized or not. I believe everyone should have equal rights, and I will never vote any way that would take any right from anyone in order to do anything else. And the way Maria's voted with the multiple NDAAs, whether it was taking away reproductive access for active duty soldiers to seek reproductive care and travel reimbursement, whether or not it's the way that she voted to have TRICARE no longer cover family members for gender affirming care. No, never, not even once, not even a blip. Everyone has rights, and I will not sit and take a poison pill that whatever. I don't care who's in leadership. I don't care if that bill gives funding to some weird disease that my child develops. I am not going to throw others under the bus in order to just worry about an ad in next, September that says, oh, Brent's, no. Never.
I appreciate that answer. Next question is: how do you think that you should address or that we should address, a growing homelessness problem as well as drug addiction?
We don't question have that problem. I agree that we need more mental health services. We need to properly fund, and again, that comes with universal health care that covers people from their head to their toes, whether it's their eyes or their teeth or their mental health. It's with you in your birthday suit when you're walking around. Pretty much should be covered. I want to make sure that we're doing that, but we need more substance abuse programs, and we need to scale back more of our war on drugs. The war on drugs is still happening. We're still spending ungodly amounts of money on it, and we have to admit it didn't work. I'm happy to admit that the Affordable Care Act became unaffordable because Democrats didn't do the work on step 2. Republicans need to admit the war on drugs didn't work. We still have this. We need to look at why are people going to drugs and getting addicted. The fact that people are bringing fentanyl here to feed the drug addiction, that's a supply and demand. That is going to happen in any society, no matter what the actual object is. We need to work on what has people seeking those items. Why are people so in such a place that they go out and they think to try something? Like I don't support Dare and the 80s and 90s stuff I went through per se, but it goes back to the root. What is so hurt in this person that they sought this as a form of self-medication?
And
And we can help on that.
the other part of that question, and I guess it links to what you're talking about, supply and demand with respect to drugs, was housing and supply and demand, I guess, for housing as well. I'm actually of the belief, I'm not so sure that drug abuse leads to homelessness. I think homelessness is exacerbated by drug use and things like that. But I do think there's a supply shortage. But if you wanted to respond in terms of housing, any kind of thoughts there, how to address that?
I have ideas. I would like to see that we find a way to offset permitting costs, because permitting costs are necessary for cities and counties. I mean, that's how they get their funding, but can be such a large cost to the overall build. I also would like to see a program put in where we can help offset the builder's profit to building affordable housing, because right now, the builder's making, say, 20% or 15%. Well, they build $1 million house, they make 150,000. They build a $500,000 house, they only make 75,000. They build a $250,000 house, they're only making 3750. Well, they're going to concentrate on the bigger houses where the upward mobility will consume them and they can move them. We need to help them to say, no, we need more $200,000 houses. And if that means the federal government needs to subsidize and go, okay, well, we'll chip in, 20K into this, and we'll take the permit fees and hold those over as a lien onto the property, but then you sell it to an end user, not to a company that's going to rent it out. But we're going to build neighborhoods because we are going to put people into houses. And then if those people sell the house, they have a lien for this huge amount that sits on there that maybe expires after 10 years. That we put something on it so that if somebody tries to flip it, they end up with paying all the fees. But otherwise, we subsidize it and we get people stable. I do not want to see, I mean, I know the need for apartments and condos. I'm not questioning that. But I don't want to see affordable housing is, oh, you're going to pay rent the rest of your lives. I'm lucky enough to live in a house and pay a mortgage and know that if I don't choose to refinance, at someday they're going to mail me a piece of paper that says this box is mine. And I would like other people to be on the path to that as well. And I just think it builds a better community.
Thank you for that answer. The last question, I'll try to be bold and synthesize these two questions. The first part of the question is, how would you respond to claims that our politics aren't a yo-yo, they're a ratchet in which Republican norm violations are ultimately not answered in kind and are rewarded? And another question was, do you see any resolutions to the media environment where Republicans are able to lie without any punishment and all that? And so my synthesis of that is, to what extent is your inclination this kind of like restoring the heart of America, think Joe Biden, and being holier than thou, or like trying to get to a place of back to these norms, and how much of your attitude is eye for an eye, or attitude is, well, there needs to be accountability? And so how do you weigh, perhaps a need for accountability with the importance of moving on and being together? And so that's my best synthesis of those styles of questions.
No, I believe that accountability leads us back to the norms. I believe that holding people accountable will bring along the next generation of leaders that are ready to hold to the norms and not break them where they have to be held accountable in an ugly public way. Like, I mean, nobody wants to run, be president, be impeached, be like that's not what anybody wants. So I'm really hopeful that we can get rid of, this con artist that we have now and we can go forward. But I believe that if we don't hold him accountable, if we don't hold this administration accountable, we've handed the roadmap to the next authoritarian that's going to find a way to pop up in 2032, 2036. Like we have to close this door and we have to tightly lock it. This is this is just where it's at, and I believe that strongly, and I want to be with norms, and that's where I stand. Like I said, on Supreme Court expansion is being careful about it, but at the same time, without accountability, I just we are looking at a president now that the Supreme Court says you can't do that, and he says, "Watch me." We do not have a system that's built to check against watch me. And I don't know if we have to build that in the next Congress when I'm there, but I believe that holding accountability is going to bring more accountable people to run. I think we just have kind of gotten on a runaway. I don't think it's a yo-yo or a ratchet. I think if there's a ratchet on anything, it's that the right every single week steps further to the right and centrists try and step over there to them and say that they're meeting in the middle. I'm sorry. The middle between left and right is to the right of when Gingrich was Speaker of the House. This is fantasy ideas for Gingrich when he was Speaker, what they're trying to pass now. These things, like just absolutely ridiculous. So that's my thought. I don't think we get back to normal unless we get accountability.
Brent, thank you so much for doing this interview. We really, really appreciate you having on. It was a freewheeling discussion. And why don't you shout out your stuff and tell people where to find you?
Yeah, well, I'm on all socials. They all start with @BHennrich, and you can just search me, just Brent Hennrich with 2 N's. My website is bh4c.com, and my direct link is bh4c.win to donate. I can't do it without your support, but we're out here, we're fighting, we're talking to as many people as we can. We had a kickoff party last night. We had 150 people cram a venue to over capacity, and we're going forward, and we're looking forward to legislating in the future and doing our best to truly represent Democrats and all Americans, and just say, come on, guys, we can do better.
Thank you, Brent, so much, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a successful campaign.
I thank you again for your time.
Alrighty, I'm going to end the call now. All right, folks, that was Brent Hennrich. My thoughts on this are, look at the differences in sort of commitments to votes. Save America Act, we're going to pass that if you're Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. The Lake and Riley Act, the funding for ICE, and then her lecturing Americans and Democrats, hey, we got to be smart about strategy. We got to be smart about leverage. Hey, you just voted in favor of their things without any conditions whatsoever. So I will take any time I have from now until the midterms to promote strong Democrats, not weak Democrats. And by strong, I mean people who will actually vote against the fascist threat, in favor of the Constitution. I saw someone was in my replies, I was sort of promoting this interview. They were like, oh, this is all communism. Nothing about communism. You guys are out to sea. You're out to lunch. This is about preserving. It's almost like conservative in nature. We're trying to preserve our republic. We're trying to keep our democracy. We're trying to actually hold accountable. And you saw, what did we end on accountability? That's something that I don't trust someone like Marie Gluesenkamp Perez to pursue. And so from now until November, I'm going to take the time to push for more eyes on alternative visions that match with our visions in the primary. In the primary, that's where we get the opportunity, the freedom to be a little bit more thoughtful about what we want the future of our party to be. Right now, I wasn't lying to you guys. The Democratic leadership approval rating is in the toilet. That's not just because of Hassan, by the way. It's not because Hassan has warped the minds of 52% of the Democratic constituency that they disapprove of their leadership. The reason why 52% or something like that disapprove of Democratic leadership in Congress when it was positive in 2018, it was positive in 2020. The reason is because we don't trust the leadership, right? The approval rating is different now than it was in previous resistance moments, is because we don't trust leadership to actually do what it needs to be done to check this president. Voting to censure Al Green? Are you kidding me? I didn't even know about the Kamala Harris. I want to fact check on that one. Did they actually censure Kamala Harris? And did Marie Gluesenkamp Perez vote for that? And so you want to talk communism? This has nothing to do with communism. Nothing at all. Anyway, I have a lot to say, folks. It's not going to be so much longer, but I do want to talk real quick about Pam Bondi. I want to talk about some war stuff. Also, do you guys follow any of these AI slop channels? All of the AI slop channels just keep posting this like cuck scenario. You know what cuck scenario I'm talking about? Where it's like two brand names and there's like a third brand name and then they're like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? I just like, I guess I watched one of them, like the Mickey Mouse. There's like a Mickey Mouse one with Minnie Mouse. And now the algo is sending me the same scenario from these AI ones, or it's all Epstein ones. AI needs to stop right now. AI needs to stop. We need to like pause while we figure out what the hell is going on. Tim Miller waited. Oh, please don't drag me back into the Hassan discourse. I had my arc. That shit is stupid. I don't want to be part of that arc anymore. You guys, we have litigated that to death. Oh, stop with this. Come on. It was one AI video I watched, okay? Yeah, no, it was the strawberry one too. Yeah, the strawberry, yeah. It was one. And it was also there's a bunch of Jeffrey Epstein ones where it's like Jeffrey Epstein as Breaking Bad, Jeffrey Epstein as all these different like heroes. But yeah, no, like I definitely am not going to get back into the part of the coalition discourse. That happened. That discourse occurred. Everyone knows my views on that. And so there's just no need to wade in on that at all. My mind is focused. My mind is pure. It's clear. Nothing to do with communism. These kind of promotion of candidates who are trying to unseat certain Democrats. It has to do with fighting back against the administration. All right, let's talk about Pam Bondi. I think it's fair to say that Pamela Bondi is the most corrupt attorney general we've ever had in this country. And that includes, by the way, Attorney General Mitchell, who actually went to prison for his corruption. That includes J. Edgar Hoover. That includes, or he was FBI director. My bad. But by far, in my opinion, Pam Bondi, most corrupt we've ever seen. And what did it get her? What did it get her? Absolutely nothing in terms of loyalty from the president. There are some reports that she was begging like a dog for Trump not to fire her. I find it funny. Obviously, it's sad for our country that we are even in this state. But I find it funny that she personally is suffering. Good. She should suffer. She deserves to suffer. We're all suffering because of her. Just to put on a little bit of a list of the kinds of things that she's done, she went after Trump's political rivals for political prosecutions for no good basis. This is James Comey, Letitia James, as well as Democratic congresspeople on Trump's orders. She has turned the DOJ into Trump's personal attorneys, both in culture and in actual substantive legal positions. She has signed off on such preposterous legal theories as it's okay for Trump to accept a Qatar airplane bribe. Right now, I guess the Office of Legal Counsel is stating that it's unconstitutional, the Presidential Records Act. The Presidential Records Act, by the way, which was the basis of Trump's defense in the Mar-a-Lago case. Remember where Trump was saying, oh, I'm allowed to take this home because of the Presidential Records Act? Now, because he wants to hide all of the corruption, he's saying, actually, the Presidential Records Act is unconstitutional. You see the kind of games that these cretins, these freaks play? Freaks like Pamela Bondi? Disgusting. Disgusting. And yeah, actively tried to mess with the Epstein files release. No doubt about that. No question about that. Stood by as Trump lied. Said the Epstein files were a Democrat-created hoax. Obama created the Epstein files. That's what Trump said. Stood by as he was sending people to gulags without any due process. Don't ever forget who was in the room in the Oval Office when Kilmar Abrego Garcia was ordered by the Supreme Court to have his return facilitated. Who was in the room saying that what Trump did was fine, okay, that they really couldn't do anything? Stephen Miller, the fascist. Marco Rubio, the fascist. Pamela Bondi, the fascist. She was in the room. So she's involved in all of this. The DOJ is intimately involved in all the abuses going on with the immigration system. Not only that, she has diverted DOJ resources from laudable goals to the goals of internal immigration enforcement. Instead of focusing on like crime, anti-terrorism, anti-corruption, they've closed down, and certain anti-corruption units, entire U.S. attorneys' offices are being hollowed out because of the rampant corruption. They can't even just stay in their posts, to say nothing of what occurred. Now, part of this predated her appointment and her confirmation, which was what they were doing with Mayor Adams. But ultimately, she signed off on it. She ratified it. She ratified the decision to charge James Comey. So she is intimately responsible, culpable. She should be criminally investigated for corruption, for bribery, for abuse of power. To the extent that she's linked to any of these killings overseas, murder. Although I would put that more principally in the role of the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth. But she is a culpable actor. She should be in prison. Okay, that's my analysis. And she's disgraced the department. She has totally disgraced the department. Forever stained by the worst attorney general of all time. Let me talk about why I think it's a bad move for Trump. It's a bad move for Trump because, A, it shows that he's trying to lash out and blame other people for his political, I don't want to say downfall, never count your chickens before they hatch. But his weakest moment politically so far, from a political perspective, not necessarily in power's perspective, but politically, his approval, that's what I'm talking about, is in the tubes, as they say. So one, I guess, isn't why it's a bad move. It's just like an indication that his state of mind is chaotic and he's lashing out even on loyalists. So I guess by itself, it's just an indicator. But why is it a bad move specifically? Number one, Pam Bondi was useful to Trump. She was useful to Trump because she did everything he asked. So that's a problem. Are you going to get someone who's going to do everything you ask again? Yeah, maybe. But here was someone who had a proven track record of that. So you're probably going to get someone who's going to do everything you want. But Pam Bondi was willing to do everything you want. And to the extent that she stopped short of what Trump wanted, it wasn't her fault. It was because she's inherently limited by grand juries and judges who are still not under the control of the direct control of Trump. So you roll the dice with that. Two, the appointment process itself will be a source of consternation for Trump. It will bring to bear all of the different moments. The Dow is at 50,000 moment, the Epstein files moments, the binders, the failure to go after, if you're a Republican, right, to go after political enemies. So you get it from both sides, the corruption angle from Democrats and the corruption angle from Republicans, or the fecklessness from Republicans. You are setting up an impossible standard for the next person. The next person is either should go crazier and be more willing to go after political enemies. What will that do? That will lead to failure. It will not be successful in the immediate sense. Obviously, it's having the success of chilling people and of achieving certain levels of corruption, right? So in that sense, it is successful, but it's already been successful to that extent, right? But to the extent of actually seeing people who Republicans and Trump want to see behind bars, it's not going to have that effect. It's going to end in failure if they try to indict Obama. That will just cause more problems and embarrassment. The more willing you are to do something crazy like that, the more likely it is that you yourself are going to be scandal plagued. And so we already have a lot of the dirt on Pam Bondi. She used to be a Qatar lobbyist. She had the moments that she had, but that was in the past. Now you're rolling the dice, if you want to go crazy, the crazy route, on someone totally new. And they might have their own set of scandals. Think about Kristi Noem. That will further embarrass. So you're just introducing randomness to the extent that you're going for crazy on the level of scandal. And that scandal could extend as far as internal DOJ stuff or representations to the court. Missing deadlines, not knowing procedure. The more crazy you go to try to go after your political enemies, the more failure, the more scandal plagued I think you're likely to see. And that's not going to cause Trump any to be like better off. It's going to make things worse for him. Okay? In terms of political standing. It's horrible for the country if that's the route. And I expect that to be something of the route. But I don't expect it to be in the immediate interest of Trump to do that, even though he probably will do it. Now, if you go the more quiet route, the more quiet, assured, yes, we'll do Trumpism, and yes, we'll be like total hacks, but we'll just do it without as much noise. That's kind of like what Pam Bondi was trying to do. There's just only so much quiet you can have while accepting the Trumpian style of governance, in that Trump is going to like at you directly in public, and he's going to expect you to answer in public. So something about Trump's personality makes this kind of like more understated version of law enforcement from Trump's perspective. It's not in keeping with his personality, in my view. But even if, let's say that were achieved, that's just going to anger more of these pundits in MAGA world, not saying that they are representative of the broader MAGA voting population. I've never thought that. But the reason they're relevant is because people in the administration listen to them. When I say listen, I mean like they hear them and they're influential with them. And it will create more of a permission structure, the extent to which they're not doing the kind of crazy, corrupt prosecutions and being more understated. That is going to open the door, in my opinion, to an additional permission structure for MAGA people online to continue to go after the administration. And now, right, as though there were ever any plausible reason to believe that, it's just the advisor's mate. It's the advisor's mate. There's just like not going to be as much, in my opinion, patience among a certain class of influencer. Okay, it's a very narrow claim of what I'm making here. I'm not saying that they won't stomach everything. I'm saying there's a narrow class of influencer that's going to have to make even greater leaps of logic to try to justify inaction or fecklessness perceived from them from the Attorney General. And I think I just already mentioned it, but just to make sure you understand, the process of nomination and the hearings to actually confirm will bring to light things that have already happened that are bad, but also new things that are bad. And it's not good. It's not a good distraction from the Iran war. The Iran war, by the way, is not something that you can distract from as long as it's being conducted. Anyone who's driving on the highway in the last month can see it. You can't lie about that to the vast majority of Americans. And that's going to be front of mind for a lot of people, and especially if they, as I predict they will, choose to escalate the Iran war. If that happens, then obviously people dying, people getting injured, money being lost, and prices going up consistently, that is going to be felt. And so this won't serve as a distraction from the Iran war if that was the idea. And it will introduce additional pressure on the administration. So I don't actually know why it's in Trump's interest from this perspective to have done the firing. You guys can put in your suggestions in the chat, but I think it's because he is unsatisfied with how she's being perceived, with the binders thing, with the Epstein thing over his head. But he's just misdiagnosing the issue. The issue there isn't her. The issue there is him. Let's talk about Pam Bondi's incentives. Pam Bondi, however, after this, her incentive is to stay with the administration publicly, is to signal her continued support for Trump. She is someone who desperately wants a pardon. I can tell you that. That's my view. And Lord help her if she doesn't get one. Because that would be the first person, or one of the first people on the list of targets for investigation and prosecution, in my mind. And so I think that incentive is weighing heavily over her. I think in a similar kind of way as Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino is being very cagey and careful about how he curates his criticisms of the administration. So yeah, but I don't think strategically it makes much sense. The Kash Patel firing, I think, makes more sense for Trump. I mean, that guy is a walking embarrassment every day. I don't know if you get much worse than Kash Patel. The problem becomes in the replacement. The replacement just needs to be like 80% less cringe than Kash Patel. But there are rumors that Patel's on his way out. How much do you put on the idea that she was fired over Swalwell leaks? I don't really think that that's likely. I think that she was fired because he was tired of her being criticized and he wants a distraction, and he wants to go after his rivals. He's pissed at Democrats. So he views this as a failing of the Justice Department. Why no Lib and Learn? We had scheduling issues with Hutch just came back, so we were having some issues scheduling, but we have a double next week. We have on Monday, we have Mike Nellis, and Tuesday we have Taylor Lorenz. The following week we have Dylan Burns. Yeah, I heard that China hacked the FBI under Patel. I heard that he was phished, right? There was a phishing email and he accepted it. So he's just been an embarrassment across the board for the entirety of his tenure. There's been no, what good thing, how has Kash Patel made the administration look good ever? The reason why I feel Bondi is a bit different is Bondi is not as cringe as Patel. And Bondi actually, I don't think you can get much better than Bondi from the Trump perspective. You know? So that's why I feel differently about Bondi. I think Trump should have already fired Patel a while ago. Other things related to Bondi. Yeah, like it's good for bad people like Pam Bondi to suffer. He's making Tyler Robinson look good. I mean, if that case gets messed up, that would be wild. I don't think it will, though. On the war, you guys know we're losing the war, right? Does anyone think that we're winning this war? I see some people like in my replies, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe we're losing. You guys understand we're losing, right? And it's obvious and everyone knows it. And so if you haven't come to that realization, you got some issues. Why are we losing the war? I'll tell you why. We have made Iran stronger. We have made Iran stronger. I know that sounds counter, like how can that be? We've killed so many of them. We've destroyed so many military targets. We're losing the war in virtue of our objectives initially, and in virtue of the power dynamic here. Iran is relatively gaining power because they have now exercised and experimented with control over the Strait of Hormuz. And that has allowed them to take a stranglehold and shown that they are able to maintain the stranglehold and come to separate agreements with other countries that has vastly expanded their power. They've vastly deterred, so far, further intervention. They've shown they've been able to stand up to the Americans, at least so far. And so right now, if Trump were to just leave, Iran would be better off. And it was so predictable. All of this is so fucking predictable. I mean, think about it. If Trump leaves right now, the administration has weathered the storm. They've entrenched themselves even further. You've totally undercut all of the democratic movements, which was also predictable, right? It was also predictable that engaging with Iran even more was going to undercut the democratic movements in that country. And that's exactly what's going on. Whether or not you think that there's a theory of the war which would make sense in some hypothetical situation that doesn't exist, I mean, that's all for a different day. That's all for, hypothetical musings. But you can't argue. You can't argue that currently, as it's been enacted, it's doing its actual sort of goals. Give me 1 second, folks. Fix that. Okay. So we're losing, and Trump doesn't have any good options. I can tell you what I would do if I were the administration. I would come to a deal. But that deal is going to be unacceptable to the current administration. Because that deal is going to involve a worse deal than what was on the table before the intervention. No doubt. It will probably involve either some form of sanctions relief. Well, sorry. Do you guys understand? We've already unsanctioned Iranian oil. So they're already getting sanctions relief just on our unilateral policy involves sanctions relief. So we're talking about something else. We're talking about some sort of acceptance of power over the Strait of Hormuz. They're not going to give that up. That has changed the power dynamic fundamentally. Why would you give that up? In other words, permanently, Trump has changed the calculation for the Iranians in a way that makes Iran stronger. There's a new leader. That leader is more radical, more against us. You've emboldened the, what you might call the hardline position of Iran. In the long term, you've given them access to more power. And yes, currently they're suffering for sure. But in the long term, you've given access to more power. In the long term, you've entrenched their regime. And you've almost certainly made their nuclear ambition clearer, more defined, and more fervently in that direction. And you have shown that your allies aren't with you, because why would they be with us, right? Trump is being an asshole to every single country that is our actual allies, right? He's being nice to the people who aren't our treaty allies, people like the Gulf states, these despotic regimes, dictatorships, monarchies, and he's shitting on all of our friends. So why would they be with us on an offensive aggression war? But so you've shown that America doesn't pull that weight to do this kind of intervention. You've shown that America has a soft belly that was softer than initially thought. And so if you're the Gulf states, what do? You're fucked. We're fucked. Because this guy's an idiot. And so what do you expect? What did you expect? Everyone who told you, by the way, this was for humanitarian reasons. Can anyone with a straight face argue that this war is for humanitarian reasons or will achieve humanitarian goals? No, you can't do that. He's broadcasting that he's going to be committing war crimes or that he wants to. So how can you make the argument that Iran is not better off? Which leads me to what I think the administration is going to do. The administration is going to escalate, in my opinion. I believe you will see boots on the ground. I could be wrong about that. Put it out there. But they're moving an additional aircraft carrier into the region. And anything else is intolerable. They won't get to a deal because the deal will be worse than the status quo antebellum. Even though that's a smart thing to do. It's a sunk cost, right? It's a sunk cost. It's already taken place. The fact that they control the Strait of Hormuz is a sunk cost. We've already incurred it. But they're not going to give that power up because they would be stupid to give it up. Why would they just reopen the Strait of Hormuz without exerting some amount of economic or military control over it? The genie is out of the bottle. Cat's out of the bag. Pandora's box is opened. That's done. So we any sense of we'll just go. No, there's no going back. You've changed things forever. And Iran, just think of it logically. You don't even have to think of this like a master. Just think of it logically. What incentive does Iran have to end this quickly and painlessly? Who's the one begging for someone to give an off-ramp? NATO, please! Iran, please! It's Trump. It's Trump who's contradicting himself. Oh, you better open the Strait of Hormuz. Actually, we don't need the Strait of Hormuz. Actually, it's already open. Go take it. It's yours. Actually, we won. Actually, no, we haven't won. We're actually, it's not, we've already won. They're defeated, but we're actually going to go even harder, even though they're already defeated and obliterated. Trump is begging. So you got to start just dealing with the situation that we're losing this war. But Trump is going to go for broke. And that means a longer commitment. We're talking about years here. Years. We don't have years. We don't have 2 more years of this. But that's what he's going to commit us to. Do you understand that I'm telling you it's going to be years? Because just leaving, even imagine that he were to do just leave, lol. Is Iran going to leave our Gulf friends alone? And Trump is corrupt, and Trump has made these deals with these Gulf nations. He's fucked us, and he's fucked himself in the process. So if there's any kind of incursion, it will be costly in terms of lives. And that will be another sunk cost. The dozens, if not hundreds, of American soldiers killed, dead. What is that going to look like? What does it look like if they capture that pilot and hold him hostage? This was always the fear. We have a lunatic madman in charge. And you know me, you know what I'm going to do. If I were in power, if I were able to decide, he would be immediately impeached and removed for starting this illegal war. This war is unconstitutional. This war needs to end. Every day this war doesn't end, it's an insult to our Constitution. Do we live in a dictatorship? Do we live in a monarchy? Where do we live? People are like, you want to just let the monarchists win, the fascists win? Well, where do we live, actually? This war needs to end because that's what the Constitution demands. And we need to put in a new leader to come to an arrangement, a bad deal, a bad arrangement, but the best that we can do with Iran. It was a stupid play. And everyone cheerleading, you should note them too. Whoever's cheerleading this on, whoever's saying, oh, it was actually a good idea. And the cope will be, Trump didn't have the stomach to do what was necessary, right? Are you already starting to see that cope? That the war is actually a good idea, but it was just like Trump was the wrong person to do it. Well, here's the thing, right? Like, you have to take that into account when you're considering the policy is who's running the thing, right? If you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna build a tree house. That sounds like a good idea. All right, let's even assume it's a good idea. And we're going to put these chimpanzees in charge of constructing it. Well, maybe whoever's running the policy that you think is a good idea, maybe that should factor into your consideration of the idea itself. You get me? There's a line from Whiplash that I'm not gonna state, but maybe some of you guys know the line about what happens when you give a certain person I forget what even the line is. What was the line? You guys will put it in the chat. But yeah, it's it really is just a disgrace. The war is a disgrace. It's fucking everything up. We should have had a deal. We should have kept the deal. And now the result will be an emboldened Iran, a stronger Iran in the long term, And if, which I think is likely, Trump chooses to attempt to invade, marginally at first and then larger as it goes on, the result will be failure and death, and it won't change anything. You think that we're going to be able to effectuate regime change in Iran without total war? All of our energy investment, country of 90 plus million people, huge country, The U.S. has been weakened. We are a laughingstock. Everyone is laughing at us. So yeah, just another day. And remember all of the pieces of shit who tried to sell you that Kamala was better, or who tried to sell you that Kamala would have done the same thing. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Brexit, actually. It reminds me a ton of Brexit. Wait, that's the wrong thing to click. Yep, it all of the same. It feels a lot like Brexit, and just like Brexit, there's this like impossible triangle going on here, which is: do we want maximum Brexit, or do we want territorial integrity within UK, or do we want a border with Ireland? Within Ireland. And it's like you can only get two of those, right? Here there's like a different set of like impossible decision matrices that each of them is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to do full-scale war, by which I mean total war, against Iran. This is a war, just to be clear. It's a war. That's unacceptable. Obviously can't do that. You obviously can't give Iranians a deal that's worse than the deal you had on offer before this intervention, or let alone worse than the Obama nuclear deal, right? So you can't have a bad deal, right? So you can't have total war, unacceptable. You can't have a worse deal than the Obama deal, let alone what was on offer before the intervention. And you can't just leave and give Iran all this power. So what exactly can you do? Have you considered it? What can we do? Does anyone have any ideas? Just leave, lol. That doesn't work. And you guys understand why just leave, lol doesn't work. You can give them a worse deal. They will accept a worse deal in order to end the war. Someone should tell the Iranians that they will accept a worse deal. Because guess what? Their demands are more extravagant, are more grand, because they know they have the upper hand. They're not the ones begging for a deal. Trump is the one begging for a deal. So if you think this, you're crazy. Just claim the worst deal is better. I don't know if that's so. Okay, so here's the play. You take a worse deal and then claim it's better. I think that's the best play, honestly. Probably for the country and for Trump. I just don't think he'll do it. Okay, so this guy's completely insane. This person's insane. No, because they're actively at war and trying to project strength. When you're at war, you don't concede your position immediately. You actually think Iran is losing the war. That's crazy. In what ways are we winning the war according to our objectives? It's clear they're winning. It's clear they're winning right now in terms of the strategic goals. And let's not do the fake goals of the goal was to destroy Iranians' navy. That wasn't the goal here. You win or lose according to some aim or to some principle or to some value. And winning here is with respect to the goal of either making Iran weaker, and weakness is in relative terms. All right? Weakness is in relative terms. We haven't made Iran weaker. We've made Iran stronger. So if the goal was to make Iran weaker, that hasn't been accomplished. If the goal was to regime change, that hasn't been accomplished. If the goal was to get rid of the nuclear threat, that hasn't been accomplished. And you know it hasn't been accomplished because they're still considering operations to extract the highly enriched uranium. So the goals are not being achieved. And then you have the nuclear word, nuclear. That's another one. Add that to the impossible square, right? The impossible square. Can't do total war. Can't do nuclear war. Can't do bad deal. Can't just leave. Depreciate their missiles and drones. Oh, wait, they're still launching drones that increase. And also, that's the goal. The goal, but like this goal is only with respect to an outcome, right? Those missiles and drones are dangerous because they give Iran the ability to project strength and achieve political outcomes, right? We're not talking, the drones and missiles aren't just, they're not a threat in terms of their military function independent of political outcomes. They're a reflection of Iran, the Iranian regime's ability to project strength, right? It's not a problem from our view if, for example, France gets militarized more or if we increase our stock, right? All else equal. That's not like a problem. We don't need to eliminate our own stock or our friends' stocks. The stockpile of drones and missiles is problematic insofar as it increases Iranians' ability to project strength and actually impose its political designs on its region and on the world. And so you can't think about the missiles and drones in isolation of that, right? Who cares? Who cares if you destroy the Iranian Navy? Who cares if you destroyed 50% of their missile capacity if their ability to project strength has been increased? So it's a very, very, very fucked situation, and Trump is going to leave. I mean, this is worse. This is way worse than the Iraq War. This is way worse in terms of where this leads, and in terms of the goals prior to the. That's why I'm like, anyone who thinks that Trump is preferable to Bush at this point has lost their marbles. The fourth option is Iran donates $1 billion to Trump personally, and America sells Iran enriched. They should have just went with the corruption angle. I mean, you say this, but it's more unpopular than the war in Iraq and in its early stages, and it's cratering the popularity. Yes, worse than Vietnam. Why is it worse than Vietnam? The reason it's worse than Vietnam, from a geostrategic perspective, okay? I understand the lives lost because we haven't gotten to that point yet, right? So in lives lost, just put that aside for a moment. But from geostrategic concerns, Iran actually has the potential to be a bigger player in the region. And that necessarily carries with it an up arrow for Russia, an up arrow for China, and a down arrow for America, and a down arrow for our Gulf allies, and a down arrow for NATO. So from the geostrategic concern, the concern of Iran, I've never said Iran is not a national security interest of the United States. That's just not true. This war isn't in our interest because it doesn't actually help our interests. But Iran is a national security interest of the United States. Iran is a way bigger concern from a geostrategic perspective than the domino theory of Vietnam. And yes, obviously economically, the effect of this war globally, I mean, we're fucking over not just our European allies in many respects, but our Asian allies, South Korea, Japan, that rely heavily on Iranian oil, as well as domestically, which seems to be the last thing that people will often consider for the America First movement, if they consider it at all. I think it's positive for China. Yeah. I think it decreases American hegemony. It decreases American prestige. It decreases American power. And that is a vacuum that's going to be eaten up by Iran, Russia, China. Does Ethan support the war? But also China is moving very quickly to solar. I mean, they are very much moving in that direction. They still obviously need a lot of foreign energy, but does Ethan support the war? Does he fuck with the war? Yeah, that's like, and the speech. Oh my God, the speech. Who is writing this shit? It is tough for me to think that like anyone sat down and wrote any part of that. Trump looks unwell. He sounds unwell. I just arrived. I agree this war is bad. Do you think the push liberalism is a good thing to do? Do you think the push liberalism? To push liberalism? Yeah. I'm not in favor of America. I have never been in favor of America stepping down from its role as world power leader. It's a stupid war. It's an illegal war. It's a war that is also, in my opinion, unethical. And it lowers American strength and belief in liberalism as well. So I'm struggling to find out in whose interest this war is. Even frankly, for Israel, this is not in Israel's interest either. Israel obviously had an interest in pushing us in this war, and they did. I'm not saying that they're the but-for cause. Sorry, they are a but-for cause, in my opinion. I think Israel is a but-for cause. I don't take away Trump's responsibility. I think Trump is also a but-for cause. I think they're both culpable. And they're both like evil for what they've done, for their conduct. But I don't actually think it's in Israel's interest. As well as putting that all of the geostrategic concerns aside, the reputation of Israel has been tanking everywhere. Everywhere. That does not make Israel safer. And if you believe, as I do, that Iran is growing in prestige and growing in power, which they are, that's not good for Israel. Think about it. Iran just months ago was like, they're having a water crisis, and they probably still are, right? Like a crisis of their internal politics and the protests and stuff. They were on the back foot on every level. Assad defeated. The defeat of Saddam Hussein. The defeat of, or at least the diminishment of a lot of their proxies. The killing of the leaders of Hezbollah, of Hamas. The effective stranglehold on certain products, certain energy markets. The expansion of American influence, all of that. I mean, they were on the back foot. Iran is going to proceed. They currently are. Yeah, they currently are. Now, if Trump decides, which I think he will, to invade with boots on the ground in Iran, I think that would be a humongous mistake. That would not, in the long term, end what's happening with Iran and their growing power and strength. And yes, just watch. Time will tell. Time will tell. Saddam was an enemy of Iran. They fought a war for like almost a decade. And Saddam was a Sunni leader. Watch this guy. Watch this guy. Who's this guy? Kokorono. This guy's always defending like these stupid interventions. You guys have been wrong about like fucking everything. Just watch. You still think that we're winning right now. We're not winning. The military stuff is scary. Not gonna lie about that. Yeah, okay. Okay. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. These are the same people, by the way, who are telling you, "Oh, it's no big deal." I think weren't you supporting the initial strike into Fordo and Isfahan and the B-2 bombers as well? The only way to win and gain leverage is boots on the ground. Don't agree with it, but right now, okay. If you don't agree with it, then we shouldn't do it, right? Like saying you agree with something, we should do that with which you agree, right? If you mean agree in some other way than what we should do, you have to like let me know what you mean by that. Right? Like, should we do the thing that you disagree with? It sounds like you would agree with it if you want to do it. I won't fully support it because I don't like people to be killed, but it's 100% in U.S. interest to do the intervention. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because you have to think that it's likely that we will succeed. Okay? Here's the problem with the intervention, like, because there's a kind of view like, okay, it was the stupidest shit to start it, but now that we started it, the best thing to do is to finish it, right? This is the kind of thinking, by the way, the exact kind of thinking of like General Westmoreland, of Vietnam, of all these different places. So just to get you into the mindset of history, it's the exact kind of rationale from back then. All right, maybe this was dumb to start, but we have to finish it. I would be inclined, okay, maybe you could make that argument if I was convinced you could win it. You're not plausibly going to win that struggle. Yes, this is all sunk cost thinking. You're not going to win. And if he's like, oh, we would win if it weren't for those peaceniks. Well, guess what? We live in reality. Even if you were going to blame all the peaceniks who right now have zero influence on the administration. What, you can't finish it in 2 years? You have to take that into consideration. If the soft belly of America is a factor in the real world, you have to consider that. We're not going to win that conflict. It won't be successful. They have 90 million people there, 1 million plus soldiers. So please, like, in order to think that further invasion is the right strategy, you need to be inclined to think that America will win. Not could win if we only got rid of these peaceniks. Not could win if only our allies, but could win in reality. Plausibly win. I'm giving their point of view right now, and ceasefire is the only plausible measure. So if you're thinking through the lens of political leverage, I'm just giving that argument. Well, okay, thinking from their perspective, I think, yes, you're right. They're thinking irrationally in that for them, the only way to win is to escalate. But I just think that that's irrational. Because winning for them is like saving face. That's what I think. Winning for them is saving face for Trump. But this, I don't even think accomplishes that in the medium to long term or in the short term. Look at the polling, guys. The polling is crazy. It's crazy. In my opinion, Dems are way too focused on stopping the war with Iran and not focused enough on Hassan. Trump has no patience. That's another great point, right? Trump's patience, Trump's crazy states of mind. These are all factors to consider. If for whatever policy that we're going to promote, it needs to take into account all the factors, not just some of the factors, not just war and intervention, assuming we had good leadership. Have you heard Hegseth in some of these press conferences? The guy is cooked. Trump is cooked. Leadership and the decision-making structures are bad. They're firing career officials. They already hollowed out a lot of the military when they came into the office, and they're doing it even more now. The people in charge of this are fucking stupid. So we can't be hypothetically fixated on, well, imagine we're a bloodlusted tiger versus a bloodlusted hippo. Who wins? Bloodlusted hippo, right? Obviously. Or imagine, 20,000 bloodlusted ants versus a hippo or something, right? Like, you have to take the factors as they are, They powwow around the crack pipe as a ritual. Yeah. Firing the chief of the army because they hate black women and don't want them promoted. It's honestly, and Everything they say is Trump broadcasting his desire to do war crimes. How much stomach do the American people have for tens of thousands of U.S. casualties? Tens of thousands? Can you imagine that in today's day and age? Because that's what it would take to take over the country. You could have guns and hippos. We'll still get to you. Need special ammo to get through skin. Oh, really? I kind of like valued how much the pro hippo community will stand for hippos in any one of these like hypothetical matchups. Like the hippo supporters will be in every single comment. They'd be like, hippo no contest, hippo will destroy, hippo 10 out of 10. Every time we'll kill even 3 grizzlies. You don't know what a hippo does. A hippo can just crush you. Like, and every thread about hippos, it's the hippo stands everywhere. Just like, you don't even understand animals if you don't understand the hippo will crush every single time. Tell me I'm wrong, Limbo. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. You respect hippos. Yeah. So this war shit's fucked. It's super fucked. And our efforts will be failures. Also, real quick, thank you so much. I think who was it who donated 50? I think it was, let me just see real quick if I can find this. I don't know where it is. I'll find it. Oh, I forget. Was it Gina? Might have been Gina. Gina, thank you so much for the 50 super chat, and thank you, Funbanko. Do you agree with airdropping ice? Honestly, no. No. I would sooner fight, like, because they're probably just gonna go there and just like abuse Iranian civilians, right? And so I don't want them to do war crimes against the Iranian people. Oh, now let's talk about my tweet. My tweet. Wait, 1 second. This fucking guy. Wait, we should review his content and talk shit. Hang on a sec. We should review his content. Maybe not today, though. I have to go soon. All right. Long story short. So I made a tweet. This is my tweet was, I'll just read it out loud. I have to work on my setup real quick. My tweet was, oh, actually, I want to show it. Hang on. I'll show it. Fuck, because there's just some funny gems here. I wanted to show this to Brent. This Gluesenkamp Perez clip. 1 second. I'll show you guys this Green Beret who wants to, he says he wants to fight me. Is that SpongeBob? I'm going to kick your butt. Wait, is that a SpongeBob meme? Hang on. Studio mode, share. Okay. All right. So first of all, let's just watch Gluesenkamp Perez.
Like, shit's terrible, but we have to be strategic and think clearly. And no one's talking about this fact. Like, ICE is pre-funded for 6 years. The reconciliation bill that was passed last January means ICE can keep doing this for 6 years. The money is not, they did it before the budget was passed. They're going to keep doing it if the budget isn't passed. And so the money's not the question. The question is, what leverage do Senate Dems have now to negotiate?
Senate Dems. What leverage do Senate Dems have now? This is after she voted in favor of the bill. She's like, what can Senate Dems do? What kind of leverage do Senate Dems have?
Right now to end this craziness.
Craziness. Like, it's so crazy.
I think they could negotiate to get Senate that. I think they could negotiate to replace Noam with someone that doesn't skirt the filibuster. I think they could get ID numbers on federal law enforcement. I think they could get an end to the surge. I think they could get an investigation in Minnesota that wasn't run by the feds. I think they could get.
So it's all on the Senate Dems. No, so she immediately gave away any leverage she had. She just voted for it cleanly, right? She didn't condition it on any of this stuff when she voted in favor of this funding stuff. She's just like, I think that they could do this, they could do that. I'm just going to be a free rider, though. That's basically what she's saying here. I'm going to be a free rider. This is Marie Gluesenkamp Perez in her Jesse Pinkman outfit. She's running against the guy that we just had on. And what I like about the guy that we just had on, Brent Hennrich, he wouldn't be this much of a piece of shit. Or at least that's what he says. So never forget, this is the person. All right, so this is what I tweeted. Everyone who has committed war crimes as part of this disastrous war should be held accountable to the full extent of the law. And if that falls on individual pilots and soldiers, so be it. Guess what? That's a base tweet. That's a base tweet. If you committed a war crime, you should be held accountable. Is there anything controversial about that? Assuming you committed a war crime, you should be held accountable. Yes, even enlisted men. Do we have this new if you're enlisted, you don't ever get punished for anything you do, even if you do a war crime? Does anyone have a problem with me saying this? And there's a law. It's a specific subset of war crimes that are defined in statute. This isn't just international make-believe law, whatever they want to say. It's U.S. law. And they're like, what law? What law? You mean the part of our criminal code, 18 U.S.C. section 2441, that makes it a crime to do a war crime under U.S. law? That law? And so this guy goes, this war is only, I'm quoting here, so don't cancel me. This war is only disastrous for the terrorist regime in Iran, you smooth brain retard. Cope and seethe more. We will keep winning. You will keep sucking. I said, dude, the cope is unreal. Trump is begging NATO and Iran for an off-ramp because we're losing the war strategically and everyone knows it. Iran isn't begging. Trump was too stupid and weak like his 1 IQ supporters. He and his criminal cabinet should be behind bars. Imagine saying so much stupid shit so confidently. You people are a special kind of retarded. He's quite literally not begging anyone for anything. Lie. The Iranian regime and its entire leadership is destroyed. Debate it then, pussy, on a live stream. You down? Lamau, sure. How about in a room together so you can call me a pussy to my face and then we can see where this conversation goes. You are a pussy bitch. Of course you wouldn't do that, so tough being screened. So I literally said, let's get Tim Pool to be the moderator. And then I retweeted. We'll give this a like. Also, we have to talk about also we have to talk about this guy. We also need to talk about this guy. All right. And so this guy tweets out, this is the guy calling me a pussy bitch in the internet. I never heard of in the internet. I've heard of on the internet. I haven't heard of in the internet. And so this is the guy. So he deletes this afterwards. The post is unavailable. But he thinks I'm Rob North.
That's not what I'm saying when I say I'm above these people. I'm not making a claim I'm smarter than them. I'm making a claim that I have proven myself through these debates and my ability to have serious debates that I don't need the fucking Jerry Springer show.
So he quote tweeted this to all his people. It's like, this is who's going up.
I don't give a fuck anymore. Fuck you, Sarah. You fucking Jerry Springer host wannabe motherfucker. You suck. You're fucking garbage. Your moderating skills suck. The truth is, you like Dusty, so you're gonna kiss his ass. That's the fucking truth. No one's intimidated by you and your fucking cretins. You're garbage. That's the truth. You fucking coward. Send in DMs. Let me give you some unsolicited advice. Here's some unsolicited advice for you, motherfucker. Learn to do your job as a moderator.
But we stand Rob here. Okay, so we stand Rob. The thing is, it's the reason we stand Rob is because this is true. First of all, Rob Norris twice the man you are. It's true. And I'm not saying that as like any kind of dig. He's a peaceful man that doesn't resort to violence when he disagrees with someone. Second of all, you should really off whatever supplements you're using. It's fucking with your head. So yeah, this is not me. This is Rob. And Rob is getting like ricochets, which are totally undeserved by this like conservative guy, this like animal, his like followers and shit. They're like making fun of how Rob looks, and that's all fucked up, and it's like the wrong person. And then they're like, so this guy, he goes, What? You called him a pussy. Now you want to do a podcast? Sit this one out, princess. By the way, there's a lot of like very homoerotic language being used by a lot of my reply guys recently. They're like, I'll show you another exchange I had. It's wild. Sounds like he's flirting with me. Yeah, and anyway, he started it. He called me a smooth brain retard. And so I give it a little back. I'm just like, you're a pussy. That's the same thing the other guy, the tiny guy. Remember Tiny? There was this guy who was like calling me at all hours of the night because he was pissed I called him a bitch. I'm like, don't be a bitch. Because he was just like not answering a question. And now he made it his life mission to like reply to every single one of my things. Anyway, so I didn't even like, they took it really personally and I said pussy. Anyway, wait, there's more. There's mas. So I'm like, call up Timcast. Wait, there was one other thing I wanted to show. Yeah, the Rob North thing really killed me. Wait, we have to look at this. Wait, let me show the other exchange for the other people. It's for the starving children. First of all, what a great Attorney General pick, am I right? I'm sorry, I thought you was corn. My Pam Bondi tweet. Oh, these guys. So he goes, so this is the tiny guy. He's like, I'm not into beta males. Why don't you just say you're not into dicks or you're not into like males? The fact that you specify, right? Exclusius alturius. What's the canon of construction here? When you're saying I'm not into beta males, I think it's kind of implying that you're into alpha males. Not that there's anything wrong with it. These guys are like very self-hating and very homophobic with their rhetoric. And so I'm just calling to, like there's nothing wrong with them being closeted gay guys. And then this guy's like, what's it like to be on the side that mostly consists of ugly single women and not on the side that most men are on? And I'm just like, you guys just love dudes. My mistake. You just like men. Anyway, this goes down. And then I show him the poll that says that most men currently, as it stands, agree with me, right? Because most men, the current polling is majority of men are against Trump. And so he has this like long, where is this? There's like this very long homosexuality. What is this? There's something going on here. And there's that tiny guy in every post. There was more. It was like this long diatribe and stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, I don't want to be on the side with all the women. It's like, why? Why do you care? These are like the most sexist, most homophobic, but they're all like incredibly gay coded. Anyway, yeah.
Ago, right here.
Have you guys have all seen this, right? Listen, I'm not one. I don't know who this person is. So who the fuck knows? I did see some of the replies that he gave. He was a little unhinged and he was a little, I would say, too accepting of anti-Semitism, if not anti-Semitic in some of his replies as well. But if you haven't seen this.
250 years ago, right here at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia, Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. My name is Mark Moran. 250 years later, I'm saying the same thing. Today, I'm going to announce that I'm breaking free from the Democratic establishment. And I'm going to run for United States Senate as an independent.
Why does he walk out of frame? Why does he walk out of frame? Look at his hands. Listen, I'm talking a little shit, but like...
Now I'm going to run for United States Senate as an independent. I'm doing that because I'm putting our country first. I'm putting it above these divisive issues that the left, that the right, and our corporate media control. I want to talk about big, bold ideas that will save this country. We can't afford homes. We can't afford health care. We're dropping bombs on another country at the behest of another country.
It's like he's rizzing up the audience right now.
We're entirely controlled by corporate institutions. We make it so that when we take out a 30-year mortgage to buy a house, over 50% of what we pay over that 30 years, it goes to the bank. We're ripping off the middle class with our tax code, that the elites who are controlling us get loopholes while we don't. We need to simplify everything in this government. But we need to fundamentally restructure and turn this around so that it works for the people. Everything is wrong, and it's because money controls. That is not the system that our founding fathers designed. And I'm here to say that. I'm running as an independent because this message is about much more than me. It's about the idea of America. We're 250 years in. We have to have big, bold, beautiful ideas to change things. And it's up to us to not fall into the trap that Washington warned about, of being divided by political parties. It's time for us to unite, to realize we can close our borders. We can earn our citizenship.
We can earn our citizenship? Are you going to like take it away or something, dude? We can close our borders.
It's time for us to unite, to realize we can close our borders. We can earn our citizenship and the right to vote. And then we can do this together. And we can put America first. We can put the Commonwealth of Virginia first, but it's up to us to take it back. Yeah. Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah, that you killed that. That was great. Anyway, homeboy's getting cooked. Is this your first day with arms and hands? We got kicked off Act Blue because we're independent. Yeah, cool, Mark. Go ahead and turn around once you get elected. No clue why no one else has ever thought of all these buzzwords and catchphrases before. I'm sure you'll sort it out. How many zins you got on your lip? A lot going on with the arms here. Maybe that just means we need to lock arms, brother. I'm fucking with it. Are you trying to hit on us or coldest white boy in the nation? God forbid a white boy get a little motion. Potential goat. Look at this. One of these things is not like the other. Let's see this. If I had said Chinese money, so much. So here's the thing, right? Like, fuck us on and all that, but when people start talking about that anti-Semitism, like the anti-Semitism, the major form of anti-Semitism that can actually get realized in this country, it's the right-wing groypers. It's all of these types of people. All right. I'm sorry. Like, this guy looks like a douche. Why would you respond to this sort of question? Any other religions you reject contributions from? More than telling you replied to a groyper with notice or in a bio asking about Jew money with no qualms. Why focus on? It's a meme. Hassan obviously is a Democrat. It's called a joke. No one can take jokes these days. No one can ever just accept it. But also, I disagree with a bunch of stuff with Hassan. But I'm not one of these people who are like, let's talk about the coalition. I don't even know what that means. You guys don't even know what it means. No one tells me what the coalition means. Apparently, there's this thing called the coalition. And something needs to be done about the coalition. But I just don't understand what it's meant.
Break of life, a dirt road, a cold beer, a blue jean.
The coalition. Can I just, okay, I'm just for a second. You need to define what we're talking about when it comes to coalition. Okay? If the prescription is don't do interviews with someone, X person, then just say that. Don't do interviews with this person. Don't campaign with this person. You need to just say what you mean instead of this vague bullshittery of the coalition. We don't need these people in the coalition. I have zero. If anyone comes in with like coalition talk with me and doesn't immediately define what their prescription is, I'm no longer tolerating it. I'm just so over and done. And I'm not doing the arc again of vague coalition, ill-defined coalition bullshit. I'm just not at all ever going to entertain that whatsoever. The H person. Oh. Coalition equals no, like the thing is, and I saw, what did I see? Oh, Wick was all about this. I saw Wick a Wick tweet, and shout out Wick. You know, I fuck with Wick, whatever. Wick was doing a podcast in if coalition includes podcast, because that's what I was tarred with, right? Podcast. If coalition includes podcasting, Wick was having a podcast with Talibots. Who fine. I don't care. Do a show with Talibots. I like talking to Talibots. Fuck, if you want to do a show with Ryan Mullally, do a show with Ryan Mullally. But you need to just define what you mean by coalition. If coalition building includes doing podcasts, collaborative podcasts with people, then Wick is guilty as anyone. Right? But for whatever reason, these enlightened centrist dead ender types, sorry, Tolly, who didn't vote for Democrats, for Kamala, by the way, also excluding Joe Manchin, all these types, there's not a taboo there. So we just need to define what we're talking about. All right. Just define what we're talking about, what the prescription is. And anyone who gives you the vague coalition stuff, you can just disregard them completely. You can say, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about with this coalition nonsense. So you just need to tell me what you're talking about and what you want people to do. And anyone who doesn't immediately do that, you can just discount everything they have to say. What do you mean by building a coalition? Radel, PPP? 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 PP? PP? What do you mean by building coalition? Literally tell me what is meant by those terms. By those terms. I need to know what you mean by build coalition and what is included in build coalition and not build coalition. So moderating debates. No. So just so you know, they had a podcast show together. So is that building a coalition or not building a coalition? If I did a show with Connor, would that be building a coalition or not building a coalition? Just simple, clear answers is all I want. I'm allowed to buy ice because I'm not in front of the Supreme Court right now. Building a group of people that wants to build a better America through proper liberal principles. Right. So is podcasting with someone like Connor building a group of people that want to build a better America through proper liberal principles? I'm asking you to apply that and give me a set of things that's included in building coalition. What is that? Is the act of podcasting collaboratively with counterpoints building a coalition? Is that building a group of people that wants to build a better America through proper liberal principles? You can disagree ideologically with people who are anti-American. You can't build with. I don't know what is. You need to just very clearly tell me what you mean by this. Okay. Is doing a podcast consistently with someone like Counterpoints, is that building a coalition? It is building a coalition. He's not anti-American. So doing podcasts together with someone is building a coalition. That's part of building a coalition. If that's the case, then we're totally, there's going to be just so many examples to draw from of bullshittery that no one cares about. But also, isn't the idea to build a Democratic coalition? What is this pro-America coalition bullshit? I thought it was a pro-Democrat coalition bullshit. This seems like a different set of thing, right? This is not the pro-democratic coalition. It's a different, more fundamental coalition that we're building. It just seems like no one has agreed on the base concepts here. Are we measuring the coalition in terms of some sort of ideological measure, or is it some sort of democratic political allegiance measure? It might be easier just to, I don't want to chat about it though, to be honest, because it's just like this arc. We've already done this arc. There's not much more to say. So there's some sort of like value proposition. Doing a collaborative podcast is different than from a guest feature on one. So a collaborative one, I would agree, is building a coalition. Okay, all right. So help me out here. It seems that there's some like sort of ideological separate apart from support for Democrats that is involved here when it comes to coalition building. If that's the case, we have huge issues, right? Humongous issues, because those are the same exact terms that the lefties come out with respect to Israel-Palestine. Now you can say they're wrong about Israel-Palestine. I actually agree that Israel did acts of genocide against Palestinians. So that's my view. I've said my view multiple times. I do think that we should stop funding Israel. And there are some people who say this is a line in the sand for them. And I won't vote for anyone who does that. Right? So what are these ideological structures that you think liberals should take heed of so as to not do, for example, collaborative podcasts with certain people? Because I have done collaborative shows with all sorts of different types of people. I was open to doing one with Rob Noor. If you want to build a liberal democratic coalition, then that's specific to democratic principles. My interest is in specific results, right? My interest is in stopping Trump, stopping the fascist threat. That's what I want. I guess I don't really, maybe building a successful, winning political campaign or helping to achieve that for people, for senators, politicians. That's what I want to do. They're tailored to specific outcomes, and those outcomes are winning certain elections for certain people. Ideologically, I mean, like, I don't know. I have much less. I would hope that people would accept my views, but like, I think of coalition building in the sense of like, if someone were to tell me what's coalition building, it's like either literally in the case of parliamentary systems, building a coalition to run government, or it's some kind of united front of disparate groups that think differently, right? A coalition of different thinking minded people against a common threat. That's what I think of a coalition, right? That coalitions identify some sort of greater purpose or evil, put aside differences to achieve that. That's what I understand a coalition to be. I don't understand a coalition to be some sort of like ideologically pure group. I view a coalition of like very different sets of people that are similar enough as sort of pointed at a common threat or goal, right? So that's kind of how I view a coalition. But if you want to say a coalition is that part of that is involved in like who you choose to have a podcast. So I mean, like, it depends on what your aim is. Like if your aim to do a podcast show is to have a debate show, right? I'm not sure that that's coalition building. If your aim is to discuss the news from different perspectives, think Hannity and Colmes, I'm not sure that that's an effort in coalition building. In other words, coalition building, to the extent that it's mapped onto this concept that you're introducing, what one wants to do, right? It's not coalition building for me to go hang out with a MAGA person and grab a beer because we want to watch the game together. That's not coalition building. Coalition building suggests some sort of broader thing that we're trying to accomplish. You know? I don't think it's support Israel-Palestine ideology. It's a position. I don't really see the difference in, I guess I don't understand the difference between ideology and position. I think ideology is like it's a set of positions. I guess I'm not seeing that difference. Principles and ideology is more important. Positions can define potential. I guess you're saying positions are downstream of principles, but the principle could just easily be anti-genocide, could be respect for human rights, respect for good outcomes for most people, respect for American treaty obligations, American law. I mean, all of these could lead to the position, right? So if you're against the Israel intervention in Gaza on the view that it is a genocide, and your principal position is anti-genocide, I really don't see why. In other words, to me, they're all just different. Principles are just positions. Maybe someone can interpret a principle as like more grounded or a lower level thing that leads to more application stuff. But yeah, I don't know how that's relevant to our to our discussion here. Whether it's a principle, whether it's a position. If someone were to take the view that, a principled opposition to genocide is a line in the sand for them as far as their democratic coalition, is that consistent with the sort of, weeding out that's being proposed here? So like, it's all kind of vagaries for me. It's all kind of vagaries. Right? The set of prescriptions should be clear. Do this, don't do that. Do criticize Hassan, criticize Mike from PA, do criticize, and I can sign on to that prescription. Absolutely, I can sign on to that prescription. In fact, I already do. So that part of the prescription, I'm on it. Do vote for any kind of candidate that is like Mike from PA, etc. Do vote against those people in primaries and stuff. I'm on board. I'm totally on board. With you there. Don't let certain of their policy prescriptions come into fruition or fight against them. I'm good with that. That's a great prescription. The part that is confounding for me is beyond that. It's like, don't do podcasts, or do podcasts sometimes with them in these certain ways. And then it's just like, dude, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? What is the prescription? And so that's why I've already done my round in this discourse. I find it so vague and so stupid and so just no one wants concrete things to propose. Concrete. That's understandable. That's not, these people are toxifying the movement and you should do X. What is the thing to do? Do not have people who support Republican Party on, right? I don't even agree with that. Well, guys, one thing I might excite, base libs. My lovely base libs. I'm trying to create a set of actionables for the next Democratic administration in sort of devious but I think constitutionally sound, constitutionally principled ways to achieve accountability. I'm trying to create and document those sets of actionable items. Some will be just president involved. Some will require Congress. Some will require more than that. And so I'm thinking about setting that up as a set of what you would need to achieve each of these goals of accountability. But just while I have that comment in mind, just while I have that comment in mind. Other things. I saw a tweet from Mr. Mutin. It was like, why are you so base lately? I mean, like, listen, I don't have as much bad blood with Mutin that I do with Dan Saltman. Just because I view Dan as like principally lying about me and then dodging and ducking me, and I view him as responsible for a lot of without any apology or recognition, right? Any apology and recognition, without any ownership of what he's done. So I view him much more negatively than Mr. Mutin. But it's like, when have you ever, like, my position against the administration, against Pam Bondi, has always been this. Anyone who watches me knows I go after Pam Bondi. I reply to JD Vance and say, you're going to go to jail. Pam Bondi, please resign. We're going to investigate you. Literally, ever since the administration started, I've been doing that. So it is like, I take a step back. What is going on? Do you just not see my consistent positions over time against the administration, calling for imprisoning not just Trump, not just Vance, not just Hegseth, Bondi, anyone involved in this corruption and crime? It is just like astounding to me that anyone could ever think otherwise, that I'm not, in fact, the most harsh within constitutional boundaries, the most exacting, the most anti-MAGA. I've been calling, I've been stressing January 6th since it happened. Thank you so much for they actually really do help, the super chats. Since before it was cool. I remember putting a post on Facebook where I portended that there's something was bad was going to happen on January 6th. And then I never published it, but I wrote a draft note about January 6th and the procedural aspect of the coup. I think I called it the procedural coup. And it was about the fake elector scheme. I should have published it. Fuck. But I had written so much of it about what efforts they were doing to try to subvert the election procedurally as opposed to the outright violent coup. I did a bunch of coup research. I did a bunch of insurrection research then. So this has been my bread and butter all the time, going after people in power who use the trappings of power to corrupt our country. So, all power to Mutin, man. I mean, much love. I'm glad that you're recognizing that I'm being based. I think it's good to be based. If he agrees, that's awesome. That's wonderful. And more people should take that position. If that's his view, that's wonderful. But I haven't changed, man. I have not changed. I have not changed. Anything else to address? Oh, there might be a super, super interesting announcement that I'll make at some point, which might really surprise all of you about a thing I might be able to do, which will be fun and surreal, but I'll let you know if it comes to fruition. It looks like it might. Looks like it could. Like it will. But we'll see. And you know what? Honestly, my mind is focused. My mind is focused on the enemy. The enemy is MAGA. MAGA is the enemy. The enemy is Trump. That's the enemy. People want to have these debates about coalitions and stuff. Miss me, all right? Miss me. If pushed, if someone gives a $50 donation or whatever, I'll give you my thoughts on certain stuff. But I am not interested in relitigating that entire discourse that we had for the 20th time. If I see something from Hassan that insults me and that, or not personally, just insults my values or something that I fucking despise, I will call him out on that. Some of you doubt that. If I see something from a lefty, look at all the shit I talk about Cenk Uygur. I will not hesitate to talk shit about people who I think are betraying the country or doing something incredibly stupid counter to my notions. Okay, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that one bit. I go after centrists who piss me off. Case in point today, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. That's what encouraged me to reach out to Brent. I reached out to Brent because a centrist was pissing me off. And so I'm like, oh, wait, who's actually challenging her in the open primary? So I reached out to him. I reach out if there's, liberals who piss me off. I'm looking at many of the Democrats in the Senate that I've called out specifically, even though they're liberals. I do it of leftists. How many times? Prime K, Ogre, shout out Ogre. He was defending me with this whole Green Beret guy. I do it with Cenk Uygur, Young Turks people. So there's just you don't have to worry about that for me. You can know and have certainty that I'm here to stand for the country. I'm here for the liberal project of ours, for the Republic. I'm with you. I know you're with me too on that. And I'm willing to always have that as my principal project. What principles are most important to you right now in building movement after this current MAGA? What principles? How would I say it? I would say the principles that matter to me most, because I could just say harm reduction at some point, right? That would be the top principle. But to try to, I'm going to try to answer your question to what I think you're getting at. I think number one is anti-corruption and preservation of the Republic. They're kind of two different ones, I guess. So anti-corruption, preservation of the constitutional order. One of those is certainly incredibly conservative, right? So my view of the constitutional framework, republicanism, That's a very conservative view that I have. I want to conserve the republic with some changes and alterations that I think are like upkeep, you would see, but fundamentally to preserve that structure. So that's I would say my two most important goals: anti-corruption and preservation of the constitutional order. And that is going to require, in my mind, a lot of structural reform and increases of democratic input in the context of the House of Representatives and the Senate, with apportionment and the amount of seats in the Senate. It's going to involve extending the franchise, the full franchise, to residents of DC and of the territories. That's going to include, in my opinion, Supreme Court reform. These are all done, and even though some of them, like, getting rid of the Electoral College might seem like, oh wait, you're destroying the system, these are like needed repairs in my view. And then anti-corruption, because I think it infests every other policy goal, I think corruption needs to be at the heart of, or at least is the heart of my list. So like, you're not hearing from me healthcare. You're not hearing from me the destruction of capital or the making public of every industry. You're not hearing from me, particular foreign policy goals. My bread and butter has always been these sort of key corruption and legal frameworks that I value. The anti-corruption frameworks and legal frameworks that I value in preserving. And because I think everything is kind of downstream of that. So those are the most important principles for me. If I had to go a level to like actual policy stuff, I do think that it's healthcare cost. It's cost of living, and I think the major component of that Democrats should focus on is healthcare. It's always getting more expensive. It needs to be dealt with. There are tons of market failures. So for me, it's healthcare, then housing for those two. Do I care about international law? I care that there be international law. Some of the international law principles, to the extent that I'm well versed on them, I think are really valuable. Yes. But I'm not an expert in international law. I'm trying to become more well read on international law. I bought a book, and I'm slowly but surely going through the international law textbook. So that because I had the option to take an international law class, but I had to choose like that, either that or federal courts or immigration. I think I took immigration, fed courts, or something like that. So there are some international law principles that I deeply, deeply value, but I don't know enough about international law overall to have like a broader and more well thought out response there. I certainly care about American law. But I would care, for example, against the international law principles against genocide. I would care about the international law principles, again, with caveats, against wars of aggression, against war crimes. I'm in favor of sovereignty. So it really depends. And it depends on the exceptions, too. The devil's in the details. Any other questions? Guys, thank you so much for the super chats. I really do appreciate it. I know, I'm not a tanky. Like my most cherished thing is like preserving our constitutional republic. That's conservative. I guess you could say that in some sense tankies are reactionary. They're certainly socially conservative, as I understand them, right? I understand a tanky to be some sort of like Marxist-Leninists who tend to approve of China and Russia or the Soviet Union consistently. Now, you could take a view that that's a reactionary position, but it's certainly not reactionary with respect to human rights and civil rights and frameworks. Anyone who hears me talk knows that I care about this stuff. Like I'm over here talking about Kilmar Berger Garcia, talking about Mahmoud Khalil. Doesn't make me a tanky. And I'm not sympathetic to that either. In any way sympathetic to that. I'm hostile to tankies. That's an overly broad definition. In virtue of what is it an overly broad definition? People need to have these like semantic, like when people say that's the wrong definition, I just don't know what you're talking about. Like I'm just taking it how the word I suspect is used. If you say that that's an overly broad definition, in virtue of what is it overly broad? That's an argument that you're going to have to make. Why is it overly broad? You're like, it's overly broad because I wouldn't call tankies conservative. They're just anti-American. So if an American adversary just happens to be socially conservative, they'll support them. when I hear people call tankies reactionary, it might be in virtue of the fact that tankies tend to be socially conservative, but also that many tankies sort of broke away from this kind of internationalism school of spreading communism in multiple countries or something like that. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be, but in virtue of me being called a tanky despite not supporting Russia, well, that would be, if my definition was overly, you said my definition was overly broad. This is an example of you being called a tanky where the definition, my definition would be like too narrow, right? So that doesn't support your case. In this situation, assuming that you're being called a tanky, even though you don't support Russia and China, even though I didn't say they were necessary conditions that you support Russia and China, I just said they tend to. I think tanky is usually used for Marxist-Leninism and in conjunction with some sort of sympathies towards Russia/Soviet Union/China. So I didn't say it was like a necessary condition. But even if this were the case, you would be taking issue with my definition being too narrow, not too broad. Because here you would, the definition that you would offer would be broader than that because it wouldn't include the Russia stuff. So I think you're just like wrong on every possible level. I think most people would consider tankies would not define themselves of Marxist-Lenin. Again, self-ID is not what I take to be the meaning of a word. A meaning of a word, I take to be the usage of the word. So, and I don't think that you have a basis to think that most tankies would not define themselves as Marxist-Leninists, but would define themselves as tankies. And again, there's a kind of circularity problem here. You're saying, I think most people you would consider tankies would not define themselves as Marxist-Leninists. Whether they define themselves Marxist-Leninists, I don't think is whether or not is like the condition I put there. It's whether they are, not whether they define themselves as such. Got to be very careful, folks. People aren't so careful. Okay, the lines are blurred. I'll grant that, guys. The lines are blurred, but not blurred for me. I mean, I'm who I am. I'm a rights guy. I'm a America guy. The revolution that I think is the revolution we need is the one that happened. That's the American Revolution. That's the one revolution that matters. It's an oversimplification, but it's the best revolution. That's the base revolution, the American Revolution. So I'm a revolutionary. Yeah, I said it. Against the King of England. In favor of republics. Anything else? Let's see. I just can't get over this this clip. I'm sorry.
50 years ago, right here at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia.
Give me liberty
or give me death. I love this shit. This is like you just summoned the Dark Magician in Yu-Gi-Oh. Or that guy with like the glasses who goes like this. You know what I'm talking about? Look, doesn't he look like he just summoned Dark Magician?
Or give me death.
He just threw the card, right?
Richmond, Virginia. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me
He just summoned him.
death. My name is Mark Moran. 250 years later, I'm saying.
How do you feel about two-party system? Do you think you would be better with more? I think maybe the worst system is the UK system. That to me seems like so untenable and insane. That is a first past the post system that has multiple parties. That to me is like a nightmare. Thank you so much. Hang on, I'll respond in a second. Just give me a sec. Like Labor won, what was it, 36% of the vote in the recent election, and they had like a landslide majority. And there were similar dynamics in some of the conservative majorities before that too. That is insane to me. So I prefer our system to some of the first past the post systems in parliamentary systems like UK. UK seems cooked. That's like horrible. But I think I would prefer some sort of like either ranked choice voting or runoff situation to allow for different parties. it used to be having multiple parties used to be a more like important goal of mine. I used to really, really, really despise the two-party system. But I've moderated on that a little bit. It is still a goal of mine to achieve the electoral systems that I referenced, but it's no longer like a civilizational concern that it once was. When I looked around and then I thought, well, is it that important? It used to be for me like we need to get out of this party system. I was a little bit more, I was different. I think people call you tanky for the same reason you call others tankies, because people want justice and people like you and the tankies get in the way. Okay. So you're an actual tanky. Just kidding. Does it need to be provable corruption only? Could it also mean weeding out behavior that can prescribe corrupt actions from people with political power? Also would love to have you. Oh yeah, sure. I'll come on your thing. Provable corrupt. I'm anti-corruption of actual corruption, but certainly I would be against systems that breed corruption, even if no corruption is actually like cognizable or chargeable, or there are pardons, or it's like impossible to see the corruption. So for example, some of these trading platforms where you're like able to bet on certain world events, I'm usually not like a regulate first guy, but these markets seem fucked. So I want oversight there for sure. Even if I can't prove particular corruption, if my sense is that there's a great deal of corruption that's undetectable for particular parties, I would be interested in curbing that too. So all types of corruption, but certainly actual corruption, not made up corruption. So one of the problems with like someone like Rob Noor, we actually have similar goals in some ways, right? Rob Noor's most important issue is anti-corruption on his lights, right? That is his most important goal, is anti-corruption. We just have very different views on what is the corruption. So I would want it to be real corruption, not fake corruption, but also corruption that extends to the more like kind of distributed or unclear set of actors where you can't quite prove the exact person. I do think that would have to be like more structural or policy-based reform as opposed to particular enforcement actions if you can't like prove someone did it. I'm in favor of forcing the government to prove corruption if it's going to take particular enforcement action. But they can take more broad sets of actions against like systems. Ranked choice voting is inefficient and keeps getting banned. I know people are part of voting reform organizations for stuff like approval and star voting. If you want to talk to them, like Sarah Wolk. Ranked choice voting being inefficient and keeps getting banned. I don't know why, in virtue of what is it inefficient? It doesn't actually get. I think it probably gets to preferences better than our current first past the post system. So relative to the first past the post, I'm certainly open to other more efficient. If what efficient means is trying to approximate the values of the people showing up to the polls, if that's kind of what we mean by efficiency, then that's what I care about. If it's inefficient because it like causes people to have to learn more and to like know more, that's just like that's like a broader issue that I don't know if I have the bandwidth, or maybe I have the bandwidth, but I just haven't thought about like the inefficiency in terms of informing oneself, and inefficiency in terms, I guess, of like learning how to rank things and how to fill out the ballot. I'm not saying I wouldn't care about those things, but I haven't really put a lot of thought into that. It is a cost though, right? Like there's this paradox of choice where if you have like a trillion different flavors of cream cheese, it might be socially inefficient to cause your consumers to have to like learn about all these different cream cheese products. Like there is a place at which choice becomes inefficient, I guess, in the sense of like the information cost. And I'm sensitive to that. Not the process. It gets the wrong people voted in, which it was counted wrong. I guess I need to know what it means to count something wrong. Right? Like I don't want there to be so much choice that it's like paralyzing you. But I think the current system is like, my intuition is it's not enough. We can't even get people out to vote for one person. Let's not push our luck, but ask them to vote for 3 people. Right. This is like a genuine concern that I am sensitive to. I just don't know that our current I understand it. Yeah, if that's what's meant by inefficient, I don't think that that's what he's meaning by inefficient. I think he means some other metric of inefficiency having to do with like the actual preferences as opposed to the cost attendant to learning what your own preference is. You're pro voting reform and you agree. Maybe runoffs would help with that. I'm not sure. I have to learn more about the Peruvian election that's coming up. It's pretty hilarious, the Peruvian setup right now. They have like the previous, I don't know how many presidents indicted or under investigation. It's actually hilarious how many Peruvian presidents have been impeached, removed, charged, and they have runoff voting there. It doesn't seem perfect to me, let me just say. But that might just be because of the craziness of the candidates. I'm not really into baseball. But I guess if I was being consistent, I would be a Red Sox fan because I'm like a Boston sports guy. Counting the votes went wrong with ranked choice and the wrong. Oh, you mean like literally the wrong result happened? That just seems like a skill issue, right? Like if the system necessitates these kinds of errors, then yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of it. But if this is just a skill issue that's able to be monitored and overcome with just like smartness. But if you're telling me this is like a necessary or at least highly likely outcome where we literally do the math wrong and the wrong person gets in office, if that's what you mean by wrong, then that's a huge, huge problem. Yeah. I don't hate New York. I love New York. I'm sorry, guys. I love New York. New York's awesome. Yeah. You guys have been very thoughtful in the chats today. I respect it. I love how thoughtful you guys are being. Sorry I kind of yelled at you about the coalition stuff. Just sometimes it's just the discourse drives me crazy. Drives me insane. Look into the Equal Vote Coalition. They have a lot of good information. Okay. Yeah, maybe I will. I don't like the I want to create a voting system which is not as susceptible to dead enders. Although you can't really fix that if that's their true preference. But that's like maybe a little bit less amenable to that. To spoilers. I hate the idea of spoilers. Spoilers piss me off. And I hate whatever the system is that in UK that brought about like a sweeping mandate majority with only, less than, what would you say, 36, something like that? Name every bodega. Rank choice. If I were to vote, I would pick rank choice over current setup. They have rank choice in some states. I think, right? Am I wrong? Where do they have rank choice? I don't like the Maine system and Nebraska system where they have different presidential electors per district. That is like ripe for gerrymandering and fuckery. Alaska. It just got banned in Ohio. Guys, is Vivek gonna lose Ohio? Is he gonna throw Ohio? Some of these polls are insane for Trump. It's like crazy low. Crazy, crazy low. Thank you so much for the gifted subs. Gifted sub. Wow. El Diablo. Giving Aaron a sub. She's winning the polls. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I also think that how's Sherrod Brown doing? Yeah, I understand this whole like it's mathematically impossible to have fair elections argument. I've seen something like that. I've seen like what's the video? Is it Veritasium? I just think that our current system is not ideal. I cover Ohio politics and the governor position and Senate position very possible. All right, here's my confidence level. I think we're going to take North Carolina. These are my confidence level for Senate for flips. North Carolina first. I'm very confident about North Carolina. Followed by Maine. Followed by Alaska, then Ohio. Followed by Texas, then Iowa, then Florida. I think that's right. Although I did see polls out of Palm Beach, which show Byron Donalds down by 9 points. Yikes. And then who else? For the holds, I think that Ossoff's going to do it. I think Ossoff's going to pull it off. I really like Ossoff, I have to say. Also, Josh Shapiro has dropped in my rankings from A to B. We'll talk about it at a later date. Ossoff has maintained his A ranking for me. Chris Murphy still S tier. Who else? Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to do rankings because that one guy got really mad when I did. John Husted is not only unpopular with the Trump stuff, he's also connected to a huge corruption case. Yeah, it's crazy, these Ohio candidates. It was Moreno or whoever it was that beat Sherrod Brown. That's like insane. The guy is like super silver spoon, like very shady. Sherrod Brown is like a well-known, like populist Ohio type. I guess it doesn't really matter for Trump either. Yeah, we talked about the California stuff in my interview today with Brent. Andy Bashir down? Why? What did he do? What did he say? We have to do a power rankings every month. We'll do a power rankings of my nominees. Yeah, we'll talk about Shapiro. Plattner, one stroke away from betterment. I don't really see evidence of that. I think people need to give up on Janet Mills. I don't think she's going to win the primary. And it's not just because of that I endorsed Plattner. I also think Plattner is a stronger candidate against Collins. So, yeah. What other thoughts I have as I'm ruminating and finishing the stream here. Well, we might be back later tonight. Like late, maybe 10, 11. I appreciate you guys watching that interview. The guy's like, he ran before, but I would take him any day over Ray Gluesenkamp Perez. I think the question he'll have to continue to address, and I thought he did a decent job today, is like, what's his theory of the win, right? What's his theory of the win? And what he answered today essentially was like, listen, I've talked to people. No one thought that Gluesenkamp Perez was going to vote for the Lake and Riley Act. No one thought that she was going to vote for ICE stuff, that she was going to censure Al Green, that she was going to do this and that. And I get that from the perspective of the Democrat independent side. But he, and when I asked him about the Republican stuff, he was like, yeah, like we're not having any issues. Republicans really like what we're saying here. But I would maybe push on him to be like a little bit more specific on the kind of Republican, because he is in a very Republican district. And I wasn't ignoring that at all. It definitely was like a more sympathetic interview. And I put my cards on the chest. 100% it was. I'm not saying that I'm fucking C-SPAN over here. But But I do think that that should continue to develop. But any day of the week, the answers to accountability, good. The answers to the votes, good. The answers in terms of what his lines are and explaining why those are his lines, where he will compromise and where he won't compromise. And I even thought that the answer on the Supreme Court reform, which I think was the most like potentially treacherous, I'm okay with that answer. I'm open to things. I want to be careful about how we'd expand the court. That's fine with me. You know, that's fine with me. I think one thing, just a little technical, and listen, I'm not a PR person. I don't fucking know what plays well for people. You guys know me. I don't know. I just do what I do. One thing I think is like there are some times where I feel like he's ending a thought and it's actually like a very good ending and he continues. I'm like, well, no, if you just ended there, it would have been like emphatic and it would have been like an even better clip maybe that you could have done, right? So that's just like one little minor like tweak maybe to how he presents it, is to like keep it a little shorter and like pithy and just end it when he has like that good, like that emphatic thing. It might be because there's a delay too. So I might be a little bit, whatever. Schumer's got to go, guys. I mean, I've seen some commentary about Schumer. Schumer's got to go, man. I am so over the discussion about Schumer. And listen, I gave praise to Democratic leadership on the holding strong on the funding. I think that how they played it is fine with me. Listen, once you gave away the overwhelming leverage of an overall shutdown, I'm okay with giving the funding for CBP and the other components of DHS, because you kind of gave the game away a little bit when you first didn't pursue a standoff in the initial funding bills. So that was the original mistake. And so given where we are now, I have no problem with them playing politics using this little bit of leverage on on TSA, and playing the game that way. I thought they did very well, Democratic leadership, and standing tall there. I thought that was good. I'm not one of these people who think that was like horrible. Actually, I saw like some asshole being like, oh, this is just like, no, this is fine. This is okay. Standing tall in the funding aspect, that's fine. That's what we want. And so I'm fine. I thought that this was played well from leadership, from a votes perspective, from a coalition. There's that word again. Coalition perspective, all good. Schumer still has to go. All right. We should have stood tall on the shutdown fucking months ago. Can you imagine the leverage we would have had on the shutdown front now? I'm not even sure if they could have done the war. So yeah, I thought that was the initial mistake, was not standing tall on the funding fight when all the bills were up for discussion, and even going back, blinking in the first instance in the actual first shutdown fight in like November. So those were mistakes in my mind, and Democrats could have actually prevented harm, in my view, by standing tall there. I mean, everything related to the war, I'm not sure that they would have had the. You see, the problem here is you need to slow down the regime. You need to bog them down. You need to bog them down in this bullshit, and taking the agenda with the shutdown is worth it. Now you might say, well, isn't it like this war is such a self-inflicted loss? It's like it's going to hurt him a lot. The war actually is like almost too costly. Like this war is like incredibly costly, and not like I would have let Trump have his sort of abysmal or mediocre polling prior to this to avoid this, and have fought without this. Like this is insanely costly, and not just like this would be like one of those moments on like the food stamp thing. This is almost like worse than the food stamp stuff. In every possible way, in terms of funding itself, billions and billions and billions. So just from the fiscal perspective, it's worse. From the perspective of American geostrategic interest, holy fuck, it's fucked us. Absolutely. From the legality perspective, one of the worst things that the administration has done. And what I think is going to be the escalation. So this war, yes, it will have the effect of politically harming significantly, hugely the Republicans. I don't think it was necessary to achieve that aim. Since we could have done the shutdown, I think bogged them down a little bit, and it would have been even worse politically if we had done the shutdown. And by done the shutdown, I mean stood tall and forced them to negotiate for an equitable agreement. So yeah, and this war is completely different. It's for people are just like not waking up to the reality that the war is like, this is a really, really insanely big deal. From the Nordic perspective, yeah, it makes gas prices go up. The thing is, people are going to react. People are reacting to this war the way they would have to prices on the shutdown, right? That dynamic is preserved. That dynamic is absolutely preserved. What is not preserved is the wide-reaching implications of the war policy itself. So just like people blamed Republicans for TSA, they blamed Republicans for the first shutdown, they blamed Republicans for the shutdown before that, or that was going to be proposed. They're blaming Trump now because they're in power. They have complete power. So this was always like an easy call. I don't know why Hutch was like concerned that maybe they'll blame Democrats at some point. It would be like saying now at some point they're going to blame the Democrats for this war. I know that it feels different because Trump has taken ownership of this in a way that maybe he hasn't for the shutdown. But to me, they're similar in scale in terms of like a proposal that the Democrats might be blamed for a shutdown. Maybe you add a level to this one because Trump has taken such ownership of it. But to me, it's very comparable. It's very hard for me, I guess, intuitively or based on previous track record to see the general public blaming Democrats for a prolonged shutdown. I'm just kind of yapping. I don't even know what we're doing here. Let's just continue watching this.
Same thing. Today I'm going to announce that I'm breaking free from the Democratic establishment.
Free. You couldn't have done a better take.
Free.
We're breaking free.
Today I'm going to announce that I'm breaking free from the Democratic establishment. Now I'm going to run for United.
I like how he looks down and then looks back up. And I'm going to run. Like it's a very coy little
establishment. Now I'm going to run for United States.
He's rizzing
as an independent. I'm doing that because I'm putting our.
And this is my favorite. Walking out of frame. This is why? Why is he walking out of frame? He's almost like Trump doing this little zigzag.
I'm doing that because I'm putting our country first. I'm putting it above these divisive issues that the left, that the right, and our corporate media control.
I'm above it all. By the way, this attitude, I hate this attitude. I'm above it all. I don't even think about politics in these ways. I don't even think about like that kind of attitude makes me gag.
I want to talk about big, bold ideas that will save this country.
It's all platitudes. Every single thing is a platitude.
We can't afford homes. We can't afford health care.
Every time he looks down, it's like he's about to break out in like a fucking dance.
We're dropping bombs on another
it's like slam poetry, someone
country
said.
At the behest of another country. We're entirely controlled by corporate institutions.
We're entirely controlled. It's almost like lowest common denominator, populist slop.
We make it so that when we take out a 30-year mortgage to buy a house, over 50% of what we pay over that 30 years, it goes to the bank. We're ripping off the middle class with our tax code, that the elites who are controlling us get loopholes while we don't. We need to simplify everything in this government, but we need to fundamentally restructure and turn this around so that it works for the people.
Like, could you remember a single thing this guy said if you were like asked about it 10 minutes after I show you this?
Everything is wrong, and it's because money controls. That is not the system that our founding fathers designed.
That is not our system. Our founding fathers designed. That is not our system.
That our founding fathers so that it works for the people. Everything is wrong, and it's because money controls. That is not the system that our founding fathers designed. And I'm here
Okay, but you like sniz.
to say that. I'm running as an independent because this message is about much more than me. It's about the idea of America. We're 250 years in. We have to have big, bold, beautiful ideas to change things. And it's up to us to not fall into the trap that Washington warned about, of being divided by political parties. It's time for us to unite, to realize we can close our borders, we can earn our citizenship and the right to vote, and that we can do this together. And we can put America first, we can put the Commonwealth of Virginia first, but it's up to us to take it back.
Is good?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Killed it. And they kept that in. No edits. Horribly shot. I do like this like church or whatever in the background. It's got a cool look. See if we can spot anything else. He's kind of showing a little bit too much chest hair here. Some limp wrists going on.
A 30-year mortgage to buy a house. It's over 50.
Does he have a belt? Oh, his fucking fly's undone. He didn't even zip up his fly. Guys, legit. His fly's undone. He didn't even zip it up. I'm not the only one who can see that, right? Am I crazy? No, it's definitely undone. I swear I wasn't looking at his he's risen us and his flies down, yeah.
Of another country.
I think it's undone.
We're entirely controlled by corporate institutions.
Look how he looks. He's so coy.
We make it so that when we take out a 30-year mortgage.
Why do they call train wrecks domey? Is he has a big dome? Because I'm about to say he's got a big forehead.
To buy a house.
Gervinho-esque.
Over 50% of what we pay over that 30 years, it goes to the bank. We're ripping off the middle class with our.
What's this purple wristband?
Tax code. That the elites who are controlling us get loopholes while we don't.
Is that not a button fly? It looks like there's like a. Am I crazy, guys?
We need to simplify everything in this government, but we need to fundamentally restructure and turn this around so that it works for the people. Everything is wrong.
The shirt doesn't look tucked in properly either. Am I wrong about this? It looks like it's about to come loose. Like it's struggling to get out. Was his fly open? It looks open, Rose.
Because money controls. That is not the system.
It's not the system.
And I'm here to say that. I'm running as an independent because this message.
He's not even in focus.
It's about much more than me. It's about the idea of America. We're 250 years in. We have.
He's not in the center either.
To have big, bold, beautiful ideas to change things. And it's up to us to not fall into the trap that Washington warned about, of being divided by political parties. It's time for us to unite.
Wait, so I'm definitely right. Why is Pisco cooking him? No, because I'm just doing it because Brian Tyler Cohen said, "Is this your first day with arms and hands?" And I'm like, wait, who is this guy? And I thought he was like a Republican, so I was gonna shit on him. But St. John's Church. This is him summoning Dark Magician. But apparently he's like a Democrat, or he was a Democrat. Now he's independent. Let's see if anyone else noticed this this fly situation. Zoolander, you want to abolish ICE? They did. Wait, Derek guy, no, no, no. They did. Why are you looking at his dick? Oh shit. Oh shit. Exposed. Fucking exposed. I I love that that's the response. We could never notice. If you notice anyone with their fly undone, it's like, why are you looking there? Like, he could be walking out naked. Or like with the half. Like, why are you looking at his penis? Oh, these are actual pictures of him? Seems like a good all-American guy. Talking about Patrick Henry. Was it Patrick Henry? I don't even know. All right, we're done. I have nothing else. I have to I'll have more for you guys at some point either tonight or tomorrow. But for now. Oh, we have to do the TikTok thing too. But yeah. All right. I love you guys. Peace out. Stay cool. Sub.